night in with Mauler and the drinker, getting trashed with the Web3 thinkers. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Hop off the cork, have a glass of wine, I'll feel safe, I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, Mauler and the Critical Drinker.
Did someone say Mauler and the Critical Drinker? I believe that'll be us then.
Yes.
We are here, and, well, I was going to say we've got a treat for everyone, but we're going to be talking about Thor Love and Thunder, so we've got a discussion. Let's call it that, shall we?
Oh, you could. Dude, hot off the presses as well. I only just got home. Like,
This is one of those rare times when everything's lined up, and it's like, open bar coincides with opening night in the UK, so hey, that's all right.
And I would summarize it by saying, what we're going to tell you tonight will not surprise you. That's about it.
Well, actually, it might in a couple of
ways.
areas, but we'll get into that, right? Because there were a couple of things that did surprise me about this film. But yeah, we've got a couple of fine gentlemen to help us with our discussion tonight. So should we bring them in? What do you think? All right, let's do it. We have got Az and we've got Disparu. Gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
Man, look at this. Look at this invasion of the British.
Yeah.
Can't find any Americans that have seen it yet. We actually had Duncan on, and we were talking to him backstage, and then we discovered he's watched absolutely nothing that we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, man, it happens.
It's one of those times where you got to cut your losses, and it was just like, Gundam, I'd sit this one out if I were you.
And the thing is with me, it was 10 a.m. and I'm just sitting through the film and I can't believe I'm here just watching this either. So I don't think that I've watched a film in many years as boring as what that was. It was put at 10 a.m. in the largest screen in the cinema, and there wasn't many people there. I don't know whether that was the same.
Was there any intro stuff to do, or are we just going to jump right in? Because I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm going to say Thor Love and Thunder was a fantastic, dramatic, poignant, and hard-hitting movie for the first 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And then it was just a relentless cavalcade of goofy, ridiculous cartoon shit for the next 2 hours.
I'll take the controversial scenario. I wouldn't even give it that. But I can't wait to get into it. Seriously, I'm revved. I'm ready.
Should we just?
I gotta say, I watched the first 5 minutes and I thought, okay,
yeah,
I did.
All right, if it carries on like this, I think we're in for a bit of a surprise. No, it was just the first 5 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes, and then everything in between was just shite.
Up until the point where Gore, the god slaughterer person, encounters the god that's just like laughing his ass off that his daughter died. Right?
Okay.
Up until then, it was fine.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Nice, a tragic figure. A father watching his daughter just fade away before his eyes because they're on a drought-ridden planet. He's praying to his god for water to keep them alive, and no one answers. And she passes away in his arms, and he has to bury her, and he can do nothing for her. That is a good setup for an antagonist. Yep. I like that. Unfortunately, it all starts to go a bit wrong from that point because then he just kind of wanders into an oasis where a god is just sitting there laughing his ass off and eating fruit, and he's like, "You're one of my followers, are you, mortal?" Because it's just, I don't get it. Why are gods just hanging around in like the mortal realm? I thought the point of them is that they exist on like a different plane of existence.
I don't know what the hell any of that was. It was bizarre. They imply that it was a fucking coincidence that Gore wanders and meets his god in the middle of it. The god is like, "Who the fuck are you?" And he's like, "What are your followers, bro?" And it's like,
because
I didn't know if it was the sword
called
to
him.
Yeah.
We should probably explain. We should probably explain this to the viewers, right? The good people in chat. Brace yourselves for stupidity because it's incoming. Mm-hmm. So this guy is like distraught because his daughter has just died, and then he hears this like whispery voice calling to him. So he wanders off across the desert and he gets to an oasis, and there he finds a god that he's been praying to that doesn't give a shit about him. And the god's dialogue is literally, "We are celebrating because we've just killed the guy who had the god killer sword, and it's lying right there beside you over there. Wow, hope nothing happens with that because that could totally kill me and all the other gods. Anyway, I'm going to carry on gloating about how stupid you are."
See, I was worrying that you guys were praising that shit. I was like, you better not.
No.
No, it was the bit with the daughter at the beginning,
Right.
and it felt well heartfelt for not in a cucky way, but it legit felt heartfelt with his daughter and her passing, and him lying next to the gravestone, and because she had all the blisters on her face and the dried lips, and you felt that they were, because he's pretty thin in this as Christian Bale. He's shed some weight. So you actually felt as if they were on this emaciated planet. And then when he gets called into, comedy god, then it kind of gets silly. But that first 4 or 5 minutes, whatever it was, felt legit. And I thought, if we get more of this is actually going to be okay. We didn't get more of this.
Yeah. So then the god decides to choke him out because he insults him. Because it's like, we've prayed to you and we asked you for help and you didn't help us. Like, you're a shit god. And then the god's like, well, I'm just, fuck you. And he grabs him and he's like going to choke him to death. And then the sword just kind of appears in his hand and he like shoves it through the god's fucking face.
Yeah,
and
the
kills
god
him.
helpfully says, the sword chose you.
Yeah. While he's being stabbed, he's like, "Oh, the sword chose you. How convenient."
The only person there.
Did you guys happen to pick up how many ADR exposition lines there were in this film? There was some really cringe ones that I thought were funny as fuck in terms of letting you know exactly how everything works. I wish I remembered all of them, but one of them was like, it was like they gave all of an explanation for how the Mighty Thor stuff works. And then, like, off camera, she said like a final line to make sure you understand how it works. I wish I had the film with me and all the scripts so I could pull out all these lines. But even the friend I was with was like laughing at some of the exposition lines because they don't trust you at all.
This film honestly feels like it was about 2 hours and 40 minutes originally, and they've cut a shit ton out of it because some of the battle scenes and stuff is so fucking choppy.
Dude, this is one of the worst paced films I've ever seen.
What TT said, there was a 4-hour cut, and so what we've got is from that. And there's still a load of scenes in this. I'm like, why is that even in here?
It's so choppy, the whole thing. Like, it just feels like we have a sequence after sequence of just stuff and things, and they just threw it all together.
Yeah,
that's I did a spoiler-free review earlier, and that's what I said. It got to a point where it literally just felt we were going scenes, just scene, and none of them were particularly relevant to the storyline. It was just like, we need to get to the kids. Now we're fucking around here. Then we got to get to the kids. Now we're fucking around here. And it's just
stuff that you should build up gradually. And like, for example, take Jane Foster and her cancer, right? Now, Iron Man 2, for all its faults, dealt with a similar idea of a main character with a terminal illness and how does it affect their outlook on life, and then it gradually gets revealed that this is what they're suffering from, right? It gives you little pieces of that puzzle and eventually reveals, yep, Tony's getting poisoned by his arc reactor and he's going to die unless they find a solution. It happens, and it manifests in his behavior. He starts getting really reckless. He starts getting really like melancholy and reflective about his life and all that sort of thing. And that happens before you realize that he's dying. So it's nice. It gives you all the little pieces and then eventually it puts them together. In this, it's literally like Jane Foster there in her hospital bed. Oh no, I'm dying of cancer. I've got stage 4 cancer. It's really bad. But I look remarkably healthy and I've still got all my hair despite I'm going through chemo and everything. What can I do to fix this? I know I need Mjolnir because apparently that can heal people. If I go to New Asgard,
Can we talk about the hair for a second, right? Because
I was going to say, if you want to lay a foundation, because we're going to remember, most people who listen right now probably don't even know what we're talking about.
Cancer.
Well, I was going to say, do you want to open that up as a subject?
Sorry, I mean Thor Love and Thunder.
Like
same thing.
Because hang on to the hair, all right? Because I was going to say, like, for people listening, okay, obviously Jane is Thor. How did that happen? Well, the film says that she gets the cancer, and then she hears Mjolnir calling to her, and so she goes to it, and it starts to do a little rumble, reforms, and she gets the power. That's what we're shown at first, and then we're given a bit more context and a little clue as to how this happened. Thor, when he was in love with her and with her and doing all the things, he was like speaking to Mjolnir like it's a person, and he said, it's not just my job, it's your job too to keep her safe. And there's implied that casts some kind of like spell or ritual so that Mjolnir will do that, like what it does to her, because of the fact that Thor said you've got to take care of her just like I do. First thought I had was, wait, you can make people become Thor if you just tell Mjolnir to do it?
Well, he essentially does that later.
This shit happens
I was actually going to say,
movie.
that's what I thought at the time. It gets confirmed later. Pretty hardcore, actually. He can make like 50 Thors at will.
Now that would have been tremendously helpful when they were fighting Thanos. If you could just turn all the Avengers into Thor.
I don't know, because they later say that Mjolnir is sucking the life out of you.
Dude,
Mjolnir is sucking the life force out of you, and it's stopping your body from fighting the cancer.
That's actually where I was going to go, because mechanically, someone might think from what I've said, oh, so Mjolnir saves her. No. Mjolnir gives her the power of Thor, but mortally speaking, she is dying. She's on like a timer, but she can do Thor things in the meantime. And you're like, well, how does that equal Mjolnir protecting her then? And you're like, well, it doesn't, because in fact, Thor tells her that the more she uses Mjolnir and the power of Thor, the quicker she'll die. So now I have no fucking clue what's going on mechanically.
I think they're trying to get that because she's a human, she can't handle the power of it. So it's like doing the same to Thor, but because it's a stronger being, like the energy it takes away doesn't really damage him. But I
It'd be nice if the film said that, though.
Well,
I showed it or explained it. Instead of having 50 minutes of inane, childish, puerile, pathetic jokes that many reused over and over again in the film, maybe have some of this characterization, because with the chemo, you lose your hair. You lose all your hair with chemotherapy everywhere, beard, hair, the whole job lot. So I actually thought, Drinker and Mauler and Disbrew, I'm not joking here, I actually thought one of the kickers was going to be when Jane fell over, her wig fell off at one point. I know, not in a comical, not in a comical way.
That would have been good. That would have been good.
But you know, when she was like doing the fighting and she falls at one point and then the wig comes off and we see her bald because, you know, the chemotherapy. I thought she was wearing a wig the whole time. So when it actually turned out to be a real hair, I was kind of like, that's not.
I don't think they've got
this is what I mean. This is what I mean about the whole. This really easy breezy opening 15 minutes of the movie where they're in such a rush to establish all of this stuff. None of it gets any attention. Like Gore, the god killer, he renounces his god, kills him, and takes the sword that's going to be used to kill all the other gods. You know, within the opening like 5 minutes of the movie. Again, that sequence of events should have been spaced out a bit more so that you built him up more as a character. It's just straight away. You know, he's lost all hope. Then he's renounced his god. Then he's got the thing that he needs to take on, you know, the rest of the movie and become the antagonist. It all happens instantly.
Yeah.
Then it's straight over to Thor, and you get this stupid fucking monologue from Korg, who's in this movie all the fucking time.
I'm fucking done with him now. I'm on you guys' team.
Cannot resist putting him in it.
So fucking dumb. Dude, I was so happy when he was dead, quote unquote. I was like, finally, use whatever narrative juice you want to make me feel sad on his death. I don't care. But then they were like, he's not dead. And I was like, oh, you son of a whore. And then you have him fucking in every scene still talking.
And worse, they strapped him to the back of Valkyrie, who's the worst fucking character anyway.
We'll get to Valkyrie. We'll get to Valkyrie. But yeah, so you do all that, right? And when Korg's given his little narration, he is going over all these like tragic events in Thor's life, like the death of his mother, the death of Odin, the death of Loki, and it's just done as a funny, goofy, like comedy skit. You know, it's like, you know, he lost his father, then he lost his brother, then again and again and again. And it shows all the times that Loki died, and it's like it's played for laughs, but it's like it's not meant to be funny. Like those were tragic moments in his life, and then
they set that up,
joking about how he got fat, and then you know defeated Thanos, and then it's like now he's not fat anymore, and he's back to being Thor again.
And they use that to explain Thor being essentially kind of broken at the start of the movie, but it doesn't work because it was made into a comedy. So now you're just like, what are you doing? Just sort of sitting there. It takes any kind of seriousness out of it. And I think that's why the cancer thing had to be done in one section, because he's like, we can't have the movie being serious. There's going to be jokes about everything else. So we get the serious stuff out of the way, and then we'll just carry on from there.
There's so many moments where there's a poignant, dramatic, sad event, and it's always undercut by humor. It's like they can't fucking leave it alone, even for like a minute. No scene gets just even a minute to breathe. It all has to have jokes.
There might be one. Well, I guess because arguably you could argue that opening few minutes.
There's that, and then there's the final bit at the end.
Yeah. Well, one thing I actually liked, and it's crazy that I'm saying this, I think, considering everything, it was more so a visual, and it made me like think about storytelling instead of thinking about the movie. But when she's struggling to crawl toward the hammer, I was like, oh man, this could be a moment in a really good movie where she knows it'll kill her, but she has to save the people. Like that could have been something.
But they didn't set it up properly.
No, they didn't do anything
set
properly.
Up in any capacity, because it was everything was stupid. And even when Jane was being Thor, or whatever she was, holding the Mjolnir, I'm just going to say when she was holding Mjolnir, because she's not fucking Thor. When she was holding Mjolnir, they were doing all these stupid conversations like, oh, do you have any lines that you use when you're going into battle or when you're just about to hit? And they're just, what if Sansa's over here? Boom. Back again. Oh no, they weren't. Silly me. It was just this is wasting my time. You are wasting my time with these fucking Oscar-winning actors.
Yeah.
Who you could have done a very interesting character study of a woman dying of cancer who's been formerly in love with this demigod. And them coming back together again while you have this horrific being who's going around murdering deities.
This is the frustrating
who's also
thing.
Gradually dying, by the way. You can bind all of this really well narratively. You've got it all reflecting each other as characters. And they try to play at doing that, but they never manage to nail it.
Here's a good example, right? Near the climax of the movie, when they're on the boat thing sailing towards the Shadow Realm, Jane and Thor, they have a moment at the bow of the ship where they're talking to each other, and it's kind of a nice moment where they reconcile a little bit, and he declares his love for her.
Yeah.
And if you consider that as its elements, right, you've got a man who's finally reconciled with the love of his life, who is dying of cancer, and whose death is being hastened by her use of this power, which she needs to use in order to help him defeat this evil menace that's going to, destroy, all of the people of Asgard or whatever, or wreak havoc in the world. Okay, those are great dramatic elements. Like there's a lot of kind of pathos and tragedy there, and that kiss that they have where they these are two people who are going to be soon separated from each other forever. Those are great elements, but then it cuts to fucking Korg and Valkyrie in the cabin, and he's singing some goofy song, and there's just a shitty bit of banter between them, and it ruins that scene. You don't need that. That should be a serious scene, and it should be given the space it needs to sink in and breathe. And it never does it. It never gets that, and it's so fucking frustrating because there's so many good elements there you could do so much with.
Well, the issue they've got is you can't really have both. You can't have discussions on cancer and a comedy film. And he wanted this to be a comedy film all the way through. So if you did have, her wig falling off, the only way they could really play that off is to be a joke. Because the rest of the fight scenes are a joke. They didn't take the fight scenes seriously for nearly all of them. They're playing blaring music as he's just destroying everything.
But if you want a comedy, don't give one of your protagonists cancer.
Well, I'd even argue they didn't have
terminal cancer.
There was about two laughs in my entire screen, and it was from one guy. None of them
all
were
four
funny.
of us can give, if you can all give me a laugh counter followed by a smile counter. I want to know everybody's. Okay, so I'll go first. My laughs was 0. My smiles were 2.
Laughs was 0. Smiles 1, which I think was the end.
Are you seeing the credits?
Does a chuckle count as a laugh? I did chuckle at one point.
Yeah, I think that counts.
I'll tell you when. It was the bits with Stormbreaker when Thor's kind of lusting after a Mjolnir, and it just kind of like slowly comes into shot, and it did get a little chuckle out of me. I know it's fucking juvenile, but like it was a little bit funny.
I gotta admit, I did my head in.
I didn't. I couldn't get into
my
that. I thought it was annoying as fuck. Yeah, but I will say, don't worry about laughing at juvenile stuff. What I was laughing at were the fucking screaming goats or whatever they were. I just yeah. I can.
How many times did they overuse that?
I think that's why I did. I laughed at them once when they kept using them again and again. I was like, this isn't funny anymore. It's just annoying.
The place that I was at, the cinema that I was at, wasn't huge amounts there, but it was like mid-afternoon on a Thursday. But when the film started, like the first, let's say half an hour, there were a few chuckles in the cinema. And then like, after the half-hour mark, you might just get the odd... Like the jokes wore real thin, real quick by the sounds of it.
They really did.
Because I think quiet, but the Ragnarok one, I still remember it. The cinema was going fucking nuts with Ragnarok. I don't know about you guys.
I was about to say this, yeah. Like I think I'm not a huge fan of Ragnarok, and it's like my opinion of that movie has slowly declined over the years, but it was funny, and the gags in it did work pretty well. I'll give it that. But it's like here they're trying for the same thing, but like it's so much more lazy.
I think it's
so much less creative.
It's like it's a bad copy of a thing that's got lots of problems to begin with. When we came out of it, actually, my friend who really doesn't give a shit about the MCU or the wider culture involving movies right now, he sticks around it. He just said that felt like the most factory produced movie I've ever seen. Like, in terms of what it delivers at what points and how it tells you how to feel and how it explains to you exactly what characters are going through. It like holds your hand throughout, has a careful delivery of jokes that it almost tells you to laugh at. It's like, this is the part that's funny. And you're like, oh, okay.
Well, Chris Hemsworth said it felt like it was written by a 7-year-old, but it felt like it was aimed at that as well. Like, there's lots of scenes in there where you think, this is definitely for kids. Sort of the end fight scene with the kids. Is there any adult that's going to enjoy that? That was the only thing I saw that was just eye-rolling. And that's meant to be a big, impressive moment against the main villain. And I'm just thinking, this is ridiculous. What are you doing?
That's like the same line of... Yeah, it's like the same line of thinking as in the prequels of Star Wars, where it's like you see all the young Padawans, and it's like, kids will love it because they get to see themselves on screen holding lightsabers. And it's like,
at least they got
now slaughtered. Let's go to the Senate.
At least they got to see them slaughtered. That's the good thing about the prequels, okay? They didn't do that in this film. They let them live. That's the problem.
But yeah,
they spent a lot of the time in the early film going, we need to raise an army, and it turns out Thor can just make anyone into an army whenever he wants, for however he wants, because he said, make it temporary. So he can make an infinite amount of permanent Thors at any time he chooses.
Okay,
I don't understand.
But there's something even more worse than that, okay? And I've been itching to get this one. So throw your minds back to the world of watching Multiverse of Madness. Do you remember when we were like, wow, so this whole time there's been a book that can do anything?
Yeah.
That would have been really useful for Thanos. And then, obviously, it gets destroyed. So that movie created and got rid of a power that is beyond anything in the universe. We said, I'm almost certain, they're probably going to have to start doing this in all these movies. Because we need something to trump the thing that trumps everything that trumps everything that trumps Infinity Stones. Every fucking time. Now, my jaw dropped when Zeus says, no, don't worry about it. He won't get to eternity. And I was like, Thor. I was like, huh? What's that? What are you talking about? He's like, oh, hey, chat. Turns out there's a place in the MCU that if you go there, there's something and it will grant any one wish. Any one wish.
But it's only the wish for the very first person to get to it.
Yeah, and anyone else
has ever got to it.
Yeah, but the way you get to it is with the Bifrost.
It's literally easy to get in.
Dude, not only
fucking easy.
Not only do you get there with the Bifrost at will, and Gore knows where it is, Thor knows where it is.
Yes.
So, Thor knows where a place is that when you go there, grants you any one wish you want. Can anybody think of a time that he might have wanted to use that?
Well, let's look at it even in
lost his TV remote down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Let's look at it just in the context of this movie, right? Because clearly this is all made up just for this film, right?
Yep.
There's a point in the movie where God, I can't believe I'm going to explain this. So they get to Gore's hideout, right? And he's left a handy diagram on the floor, right? Which literally it's got like a diagram of fucking Stormbreaker shooting the Bifrost to the Eternity thing, and Jane happens to be the one who sees it, and she's like, "Oh fuck."
It's a trap.
So basically, what it means is like you can use Stormbreaker to get to Eternity, and it will grant you one wish. Okay, so I don't know about you guys. My initial thought would have been we should immediately use the Bifrost, get to Eternity, and our wish will be just Gore dies or Gore never existed or something.
Well,
perfect. We've just fixed the movie. But instead, she grabs Stormbreaker and throws it into fucking space, and she's like, "Oh, we can't ever let him get his hands on this."
Yeah, and there's no way for Gore to beat them, because even if they summoned it immediately, they would be above him, so they'd get there first. And it's only the first person to enter.
How fucking contrived it was to get him that axe. That was so fucking dumb. Thor loses his grip on Stormbreaker before Gore does. Okay. Sure, I believe that.
There's so much dumbness in this film. The thing is, we're jumping about all over the place because really there's just so many things that I guess we're itching to talk about, but
well, to just seal off what you were just saying, right? You know, Zeus has this very low worry about eternity. It's like he can get there easily, by the way. Why don't you just go there and just grant a wish, a simple one? Why not grant the wish of killing Gore? I don't know, like this. It's unbelievable that we got another one of these things. To be fair, the Book of Vishanti is actually more powerful than Eternity, but that got burned by a fire, so.
I love as well because Zeus's whole rationale for not going to fight Gore is like, well, I'm a bit scared of him because he could kill some of us. And I think, okay, fine, maybe he might, but ultimately all he's got is a sword, right? You are all the gods of the entire universe. Like, I'm pretty sure if you team up against him, you will get him. You know, you will be able to take this guy down because he's not that powerful by himself.
No. Yes.
Well, no, because the sword isn't that powerful on its own, because one god right at the start of the movie beat him with some flower people. So he can't be that powerful.
Well, so consider that. That's fact one. Fact two, he kills a shit ton of gods. It's like, oh, okay. Fact three, he can disable. Also, I'm echoing, by the way. I don't know who's.
Yeah, there's lots of echo coming through.
Hopefully it's not echo.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'll just keep going. No, I think it's still echoing. Okay, so you got all those facts, but then you've also got the fact that the three of them, full power, being King Valkyrie, Lady Thor, and Thor, all attack him at once, and they lose because he vines them up with tentacles, and then he never fucking uses them again when he's losing. My point is, he could probably beat an infinite amount of gods if he wanted to, but sometimes he just doesn't want to, and then he'll lose. Those tentacles seem pretty powerful, IMO.
But this is a problem that Marvel is having time and time again, is it never establishes what the item does or what the power does. We just know, all it says to us, oh, this sword can kill God. But it doesn't tell us the power of the sword. It doesn't tell us how it can do that. It doesn't tell us who's the voice that's whispering from the sword to corrupt the person. Is that anything? None of this is ever explained because they were too busy laughing at screaming goats. And by laughing, I mean po-faced. You need to establish what these things are. So you need to establish what can happen and what can't happen. And if what does happen, how they can get out of the thing that's happening.
Again, there's interesting things to play with this when it's talking about the sword having a will of its own and corrupting the person who owns it. It's like, okay, it's like the One Ring basically, but that's an interesting idea to play with about, you know, what effect does it have on a person using it. But again, it's just kind of glossed over. Like all we really get at the end is Gore just going, "Oh yeah, I'm dying because of this sword." Like,
what is it? What is it? What is that voice? What is the entity that can corrupt somebody to killing gods? Why does it want to kill gods? What is its necessity to do so? What is the law behind that? Once upon a time, we used to establish this in films.
You don't get any of that. It's just a god kill. By the way,
what if it was a god who was betrayed by another god? You know, in a war of gods millennia ago. What if it was that? What if with Jane, instead of Jane just having cancer and Mjolnir calling out to it, what if Jane was researching Mjolnir, and it was actually Mjolnir that gave her the cancer. And that's why Mjolnir bound to her to save her, because it was Mjolnir that gave her the cancer in the bloody first place.
I thought it was.
Why can't they link any of these fucking threads together?
I thought the obvious choice would be that the red goo gave her cancer. Why wouldn't you do that? When it extracted from her, it fucked with her cells, and now she's got cancer.
All we really get is like a vague implication that it runs in the family because like her mum died from it.
Dude, that was pulled right out of their fucking ass. They just go, here's a scene that lasts 20 seconds. My mum is dying of cancer.
If that, 5 seconds, move on. 5 seconds, move on. Throwaway line, move on. Throwaway line, move on.
Here's the thing as well, right? There's a lot you can do with that. Like a character who knows that they're dying, okay? You know, the fear of you know, what lies ahead, the anger at having their life cut short, because, you know, she's relatively young still. You know, the resentment of like, it's so unfair that this is happening to me. All of this stuff you could do things with, but none of it really comes through. And it's like, you've got a good actress to work with. Like Natalie Portman, it can do this shit really well if she's given the script. But again, there's nothing. Like, we don't really get any insight into her mindset about all of this. It's more just treated as like an annoying problem that she's trying to work through. The fact that she's dying of cancer.
You don't understand a lot of the characters, because like you have to define what the sword does and everything. I don't know in Marvel movies anymore who's evil and who isn't. Because with the Scarlet Witch, you had the book. Oh, well, she's not evil, it's just the book doing it. In this, it's the sword. Well, is it the sword which is evil, or was he going along with it? Is it his decision? Does he have agency? And you have to tell me that, because anytime I'm like, no, Scarlet Witch is like one of the most evil people I've ever seen, people just use the book as a defense, and you're like, well, it doesn't really say, so how am I supposed to know? And
you know, one of the worst things that they did was that whole scene with Lady Sif.
Oh yeah, which one of the shitty scenes?
Not the end scene, the scene where she's dying,
right?
Where Lady Sif is dying, and the whole thing for that scene is the fact that Gore has turned up, killed this god, and everyone who tried to attack and kill Gore was cut down. So you had Lady Sif, who was calling out for help from Thor. Thor arrives. The god is dead. Everyone is dead. Sif is there with her arm cut off.
Can I just say as well, I genuinely didn't realize that her arm had been cut off until Thor said it, because it's shot in such a weird way. I couldn't even see anything.
I'm with you. Dude, after he said it, I was looking for it. I was like, is the arm off? I can't see.
But I thought we were going to get this, you know, because it's Sif. I thought we were actually going to get this earnest scene between these two warriors who had fought beside each other going back to the first Thor movie. And what did we get? Taika Waititi, pathetic fucking jokes. Oh, I let me die. I want to go to Valhalla. Well, you can't go to Valhalla. Why? Well, you got to die in the battle to go to Valhalla. You didn't die in the battle. You're still alive after the battle. Maybe your arm's in Valhalla.
Yeah, and she actually is lying on the ground, and she just goes, oh shit. Like that's the reaction. This goes back to my point I made, where they can't ever let a dramatic scene.
But Jane didn't die in battle.
I know.
She went to Valhalla.
None of it matters. Don't think about it as. Don't think about it.
On that point, right? Thor 2, I wouldn't recommend rewatching it, but if you do, they actually start to develop the idea that there's something between Sif and Thor, potentially. And my assumption was maybe that they were going to try and drive that storyline because there was shit with Natalie Portman behind the scenes. I'm assuming you guys know, with Patty Jenkins, deals were made and then not honored, and so she left the MCU. She was like, I'm out. And
I thought she just like got bored with the character, and she was just like, yeah.
She was from what I remember reading. Now, take this with a grain of salt, because there's going to be pieces of information that I'm trying to remember. She was promised that Thor 2 would be directed by Patty Jenkins, but then it was switched out, and she got really pissed at that. But she had signed a contract to do it, so then she was like, I'm out. I'm not doing any more after this. And then they got it back. I'm not sure how they got it back, but they got it back. Could be money. Who knows? Point being, in Thor 2, like I said, Sif is being put in a place where it's like she's going to become more important. She's going to go, okay. And then if you remember, the Warriors 3 are in Thor 1 and Thor 2. They're Thor's friends. They help him out where he needs to be helped. And this is one of the things about Ragnarok where I was like, fucking hell, dude. He wipes out the Warriors 3. He just, Taika Waititi killed them. He spears them all. They barely even get a line. And it's like, okay. Thor, I don't even think, comments on this. And then in this film, he twists the fucking knife when Korg is recanting these deaths. He's like, his dad died, his brother died. This guy, I don't even know who this guy is. He's showing the Warriors 3 getting killed. I was like, you motherfucker, you did it again. You asshole. Like, I don't care about those characters. But man, when you're trying to build on someone else's work, like Thor 1 and 2, can you really show some respect that someone made it and tried with those characters to make someone you like? And Thor in universe cares about these people instead of just going, I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but he's dead. It's like, okay, that's cool.
This is what I mean. It's like Taika Waititi, right? He obviously is involved in the film that he is making, and it's like he gives no fucks about anything else before or since. It's like how he asked Natalie Portman to be in the next Star Wars movie that he's going to make. Not even knowing that she was in the prequels. It's like, guy just doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't even do his research or anything.
Well, they humiliate Sif in this because she's not actually dying. She's trying to die to go to heaven. So it's like, I hate my life here and I just want to move on, is essentially the story they're saying.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the problem when you do have these afterlives, is it makes the deaths not matter because the characters don't care about it. I know I'm going to a better place, literally. So why would you not want to? So I get the
point. What you could about losing your arm as well?
It's a theme to be played with.
Only in a serious movie.
You could have had Sif dying, dying in a tragic way, letting go, eyes wide. Thor having to close her lids, sad music. It looks like Siv's moved on. But then when they went to Zeus, for example, when they went to his place, Zeus could say, I'm the only one who's got an afterlife. All your fucking fake afterlives are just based on rumor about me because he's just such a dick. So it could have just you could have played with the theories of these gods and their afterlives. Because remember, the god at the beginning said to Christian Bale, he said, "There's no fucking eternal life for you."
This thing gets played with a little bit in the movie, but they don't really do anything intelligent with it. But again, these are big questions that you could address or at least play with in the course of the film. What happens to you after you die? Is there an afterlife? Like, is there any meaning at all to our existence? What do godlike entities want? How do they exist? What drives them? What motivates them? What is their interest in us? All of these things you could really delve into, but there's nothing. Like, you go to this god planet where they all hang out, and Zeus is just like a chairman of some board, and he's like, well, we need to vote on where we're going to hold the next orgy. That's an actual line from Zeus, the god of gods.
That's
in this
more than
film.
one line.
You're not invited to the orgy anymore. There's another.
He's got the shittest fucking Greek accent as well. It's like the guy who works at your dodgy kebab shop.
He's wearing a frilly skirt as well.
Yeah, that he holds up like a ballerina as he comes down the stairs.
Everything about that scene, everything about the movie. Horrible.
To play with any of these. To play with any of these themes, you'd need a serious movie with at best comedy moments of relief. You can't do it the other way around, and it's and that's what gets me about the jokes. They're not even good. This is why I think it's only pitched at kids. And you were on about laughter thing. My laughter count of 2, that was for the entire cinema. That was one guy who laughed twice. Nobody else did. So sometimes I do wonder whether it's just like American humor may not translate as well, but it really just felt for me that it was made for 7-year-olds. I keep coming back to that.
Taika Waititi can do great gags though. Like Jojo Rabbit had me laughing. Hunt for the Wilder People had me laughing. Like when it's well constructed and there's good setup and payoff, it's great.
I swear to God, people, he has talent. Okay, it's in there. I'm not lying.
Yeah, but for an entire movie, like this is the thing. Right. Someone can come up with the odd good joke, but to come up with over an hour of comedy is very difficult. If a comedian does stand-up, they don't just write it in a day. They go out for a long, long time and test every single joke, because a load of them are going to fail, and then they sort of perfect that over time. With him, he's just, this is my first take, here you go.
What I can respect about him, right? You know how it took J.J. Abrams like an entire movie to try and undo The Last Jedi, right? Yeah. Fucking Taika does it in about the first 10 minutes of Love and Thunder, where he's like, at the end of Endgame, Thor is fat Thor, and he's decided he's going to go off and have adventures with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Within the first 10 minutes, all of that's undone. He's like, he's back in shape again, and he's like, right, I need to go and do my adventure thing. You go and do something else. See you later. Fuck off. And that's like, they just leave the movie and they're never seen again.
It's that Top Gear meme, or, well, Grand Tour meme probably, where he looks at the Russo's work and goes, this is good. And then he looks at his own work and he's like, but I like this. Like, okay, then. Like,
I actually hated that fight scene though, because he literally says people are dying down there and then just doesn't care. Like, so anyone could be dying. He's just, I'm going to stand here and do my speech while everyone around me is dying. And it makes him look like an arsehole. It really does.
Dude,
there's a real
definitive. He's a clown. He's the clown character that everyone gets to make fun of, because he's not only like incompetent, immoral, but like he's stupid. I don't appreciate, like, let's bring in Thor to save the day because we have to defend that temple, and then he blows up the temple. You're like, okay, isn't that funny?
Which you just knew was going to happen.
Yeah, no,
as soon as they went, he's got to defend the temple. You knew he was going to destroy it.
Something that I was thinking about that I don't even know if the film would ever have thought about. I was like, man, imagine how many people just died. Like, how many people who are in that temple who aren't evil, all the people surrounding it that were fighting for it. But, like, we can't do that in a Taika Waititi joke scene because he can't handle it. He's just like, nah, man, we're doing laughs. Don't even think about the deaths. You're like, okay. But then when you have a scene where I have to think about the deaths, I'm getting confused, like, with your work, basically.
Yeah, because you're saying, feel sorry for Jane. She's got terminal cancer. And then you're saying, hey, just look at all these silly creatures getting blown up left, right, center by Thor. And you're just like, okay. So which is it? Which is it? Does it mean something? Does it not mean something?
The other thing...
It's the whole tonal shifts. The shifts are so polar, polar opposite. I'm coming out of one scene. It got to the point in the cinema where I just kind of gave up in the film. I just zoned out. I just completely zoned out. I didn't know what was being said on the screen. I was just thinking, okay, I've got drinker tonight. Tomorrow my brother's coming over. We need to do this. I was literally just creating a diary in my head for what I need to do before something like maybe a line of dialogue or something on screen kind of just clicked me back in for a minute. But I zoned out because I was just like, I'm just done with this sequence of scenes which are just not doing anything.
I said the first thing my friend said was like, this was one of the most factory-made things he ever saw. The first thing I said was, I don't think I've ever had a more transactional, like, sort of relationship with a film. And what I mean by that is, I require your information, movie. Therefore, I can go on a stream tonight. Please provide it. And it did. And I was like, thank you for your information. I will leave now. There's nothing to do with emotion.
Yeah.
No, I agree. If I wasn't bullied into coming, no, I'm joking. If I wasn't going to come here tonight, I wouldn't.
I'm going to call off the leg breakers tonight.
Thank you.
Legitimately, though, I think I'm at that point now. I don't think I'd be watching these if not for the job I've got.
It's because a lot of people said with Obi-Wan, this would have been way better if it wasn't a Disney Plus series and it was done in a movie. I think this movie completely disproves it because it seems like they're doing that for everything now. The movies are made the exact same way as the... They've just split them up into different episodes rather than making you sit through them in one go. Even down to filming in the volume. And look, I'm really not that bothered about CGI. As long as it doesn't take me out of the movie, I don't care whether it's like dodgy. Like, I'm not someone that's going to pause it and go through it. But this entire movie, I'm thinking he doesn't look like he's in this scene. He's clearly separated from the background. And I think it explains why Obi-Wan Kenobi and stuff spend a lot of time on sand planets recently. Because that's the only thing that seems to look realistic in this kind of filming method.
Did you see his cave?
Well, obviously,
it was a sketch from Relic Hunter.
You have to understand, they can only spend 200 million, so it has to be cheap.
Yeah,
this is the thing as well. The visuals on this movie gave me a fucking headache because it's like so. I genuinely enjoyed the bit where they go to the Shadow Realm and all the color fades because I was like, thank God, it's like a fucking detox because everything's fucking like it's like watching Ghostbusters 2016. That degree of color saturation.
Even that, though, there is a line. Oh, where did the color go? Just in case you didn't realize looking at it on the screen.
No, dude, the reason that's there is for the retards in the audience who go, you broke the color.
Yeah.
The color.
Yeah.
Oh man, and
When
yeah,
they've
like,
got popcorn in the mouth while they're doing it, they're more like, "Oh, good things, kind
Makes screen work.
There was a tweet I saw before seeing the movie, and thinking back on it, it was totally accurate. Someone said, "I can't believe I just watched a feature-length SNL sketch." And I was like, "Yep, that's what it is."
Can I? I was thinking there about Tessa Thompson and her acting ability, and it's on the level of an SNL skit, if not worse. It's like zero fucks were given in the making of this film, especially her scenes. It's like she just showed up in her street clothes, did her scenes, and then fucked off.
Why was she in the film? Why was she in the film?
Yeah, why the fuck is she in the film?
Valkyrie did not need to be in this film.
No.
Apart from the fact that she was sucking Taika's dick, which she was, what other reason was there to be in the film?
I thought you were going to say she was sucking the charisma out of every scene, because that's like what she does.
That.
He fucked the charisma out of her, all right? Jesus Christ. He must be shit in bed if that's the performance that she gives.
The weird thing is, right, she's actually less annoying in this movie than she was in Ragnarok. Like, because she doesn't humiliate Thor. She's not constantly, like, upstaging him and, like, always having one over on him. She just doesn't really do anything. She's just kind of in the background most of the time.
Dude, I'll tell you what they did that was so painful. They baited her death and didn't follow through. I was so sad. I was like, yes, he stabbed her. I was like, oh, he stabbed her with the God Killer. She's dead. And it's like, no, he stabbed her with a lightning bolt. She's fine. And I was like, oh, you son of a...
I was rooting for the villain at that moment.
I love how Natalie Portman was like, she's injured. We must leave. It's like, this guy's about to like destroy the whole world. Or okay, yeah, we'll leave. We'll leave.
It's a casualty of war. Carry on.
Yeah. Just because you were talking more about how badly paced this movie is. So imagine this chat. We'll paint you a picture here. So the villain has gotten his hands on the one thing that he needs to complete his plan and destroy all the gods in the universe. And so you'd probably think, well, we better get in there quickly and kill him or stop him before he does this. But no, they all fuck off to like a hospital so they can dress their wounds and have some chats and stuff. And there's absolutely no sense of urgency building up to this climax. It's so fucking dumb. Like they take Jane off, they take Valkyrie off to get treated. They take Jane off to start her chemotherapy again. Thor has a nice long chat with her. The fucking universe, as you know, it could end at any fucking moment. Why are you wasting time with this?
And all three of them went and confronted him before, and they all got their asses handed to them and lost. And now they're just like, oh yeah, you just go off on your own, you'll do it, I'm sure you'll be fine. It doesn't make any... Like, what they should have done is, even if you're injured, they're like, no, it doesn't matter if I die, at least I might contribute something to this, because you've got no one else on your side and gone and done it anyway. And instead, we just get everyone going, no, I'm he got battered before. How easily they got handled the first time...
Really, that's because we always get comedy Thor. This is the bizarre thing about Marvel is it kind of admits that it mocks its character with Thor, because when Thor's a clown, he gets defeated. But at the end of the movie, he's suddenly like, I'm fucking Thor and I'm here to kick some fucking ass, and he gets serious. Suddenly he's badass when he fucking gets serious. So it's just like Marvel are literally admitting themselves, we turn this guy into a buffoon. He can't function as buffoon. When we remove all the obstacles out of his way so he can be Thor again, he kicks ass.
If I can just bolster exactly what you just said, right? Ragnarok spends most of it clowny. Right at the end, he gets his song and he blasts away even without a hammer. It's like, oh, Infinity War. Let's save Infinity War for a second. Endgame. Fat loser. Funny. Your blood is probably cheese whiz. Right at the end, boosts into Viking Thor with a double hammer action. Oh, look, he's not fucking around now. Exact same thing for this movie again. Then let's bring in Infinity War. He's calm and pretty subdued throughout the whole film until he finally gets his weapon. Then he says, "Bring me Thanos," and has like a dark outfit. Wants to kill him. Out of these four, there's one that stands out. Now, which of these four is typically seen as the best for Thor by the people?
Bring me Thanos.
Seems to me like it was obvious what you should have done with Thor, but instead, you just want to make him a clown all the time.
Taika couldn't handle that kind of Thor. Like it's the antithesis of everything he is as a creative. He just wouldn't know what to do with that version of Thor.
But you see him behind the scenes directing his films. He's a clown. He's a clown. I mean, he's dancing around. He's mucking around. He's being a complete fucking clown with everyone.
I think, the impression I get is like they all have a good old laugh and everyone has a good time making a Taika Waititi movie. It just doesn't always end up in a good end product.
That's essentially what he said.
I mean, and it's like, I'm really happy, Taika, that all your actors had a good old party with you and it was great fun. But unfortunately, the movie you made us is shit.
Yes.
Waititi himself said this was a 4-hour movie and they filmed it all. They said we all had a really great time making it and then realized this has no place in the movie, so we cut it down. And there's still scenes in there where, like, what is this? Like the karaoke scene when they're on the ship. I don't know why that's there. That doesn't serve any purpose for anything. It's not funny. I don't know anyone that would think that was funny, and yet apparently, no, we've got to sit through it.
We've got to watch another play.
Oh, dude, the play was so long. It wouldn't shut up.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Someone mentioned Melissa McCarthy there, and it's like that scene goes on forever. And it was funny in Ragnarok, but it's not funny here because it's the same gag.
It was related to the plot as well.
And there was also a reason.
Why do we need to be updated about that previous movie?
Loki puts on the play because he's fucking ego-driven and he likes seeing people celebrate how awesome he is. He's pretending to be Odin. There's a reason in Ragnarok that's happening. In this, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. Why is there this play? Who put this play on? Who knows about all these events? Because like everyone died except Thor. So like, did Thor tell them about this and then they made it into a play and then they made fun of it? Like, I don't understand mechanically. And then fuck, does it go on for so long? When I saw Melissa McCarthy, I was like, please just make it the one visual that it's her and then end it. But she just keeps on talking.
And it's like she's just as obnoxious and fucking annoying here as she was in Ghostbusters and, well, basically everything that she's ever been in. It's like her one shtick is that she shouts really loud.
Yeah, that's her whole joke. Speaking of Ghostbusters, it's funny that you brought up how it's like, there was loads of fun behind the scenes, but it wasn't as much fun for the audience. That's like exactly what's said about Ghostbusters. Like we had loads of fun filming this, and we ended up with, I'm pretty sure he said like 6 hours of raw just jokes and blah, 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 blah. And they crush it down into that fucking mess. And it's like, did we really just get a Taika Waititi Ghostbusters 2016 product? Like, is that what that is?
Kind of.
It's totally disjointed. The film doesn't have any flow. It doesn't have any consistency with it. The kids are kidnapped relatively early in the movie. And then we have Thor twice visiting the kids as a spectral form, just to say, hang in there, kiddos, we're gonna come soon. It's just like, why?
He does everything except like wink at the camera and go, don't worry, folks, everything's gonna be a-okay.
We got some jokes to get through before we get here.
It's like, oh man, there's so much potential with the ideas in this film, like, you know, tragic lovers like dying of cancer, like the main antagonist trying to avenge his dead daughter, you know, kids being kidnapped and be in mortal danger. Like this is all good stuff you could do a lot with, but it's just all squandered for jokes.
It sounds like from the
laugh. That's all you get.
Sorry, the first Thor film, Sif and Thor have got a background. They've shacked before.
I think so. I'm not sure if they imply it. I think so. With
him meeting Siv first in this movie, and then if she died, you would have been playing with this theme of lost love. Maybe Siv was Thor's first love. Maybe it was his first sexual encounter, and then she dies. Then we get to Jane. Jane's got terminal cancer. You know that she's going to die. So you're playing with this, you know, love and death instead of love and thunder. You're playing with love and death, because the love and thunder thing was pathetic. The way that they tied that at the end with the fuck right out of that.
Oh my god, fucking CBeebies
so
level.
You know,
shit.
you could have had Thor almost kind of going through this crazy phase of everything is loved is gone. His mother's gone. His father's gone. Loki's gone. Now the love of his lives are going. Siv is gone. Jane Foster's going to go. And what does that do to somebody? But no, we have to have fucking screaming goats. We have to have Infinity Cones, the ice cream store. We have to have Matt Damon making more play It's just, I feel like going up to the guy and just fucking slapping him.
Yeah.
Just going, fucking get it together. There's
You know
$20
what?
million fucking
See,
dollars here.
You know the whole love thing at the end, like the actress that they got to play her was Chris Hemsworth's daughter, and I can't shake the feeling that the only reason she's in this film is because he just said to Taika Waititi, "Hey, my daughter would like a part in my film. Can you put her in?" He's like, "Yeah,
because they're fucking around. They don't really care."
Yeah, it's like no problem, mate. Off we go. Let's just do it,
dude. When
who cares?
When they're you see them like positioned in the center of the screen as they're coming down, and then it like splats the Thor Love and Thunder. I legit was like, I feel like I'm watching a kid's like morning program.
It was a kid's program.
And maybe someone out there is like, yeah, but they can be good, and it's like, this wasn't good. Like the vibe of like, what is this? Like, how can I take any? It's so weird that 5 seconds ago I was watching someone die of cancer. Like, I don't think this matches. It feels a little bit disjointed.
Well, that's why they can't handle these topics, because they did make a comedy movie. If they did both and looked at those themes throughout the movie, it would come across as if you were taking the piss out of those subjects and humiliating the people involved. Like if Lady Thor had lost her wig halfway through after the Oscars and everything else, I don't think they would have had the guts to do it, because it would have come across as a joke. And you have to do that within a serious... You can't have a comedy movie with those themes going through without just coming across as embarrassing and everything else. You'd have to need the entire scene to be serious, and there wasn't a scene in this that was.
You know what I loved was when Jane discovered her powers as Lady Thor and used Mjolnir and transformed into this godlike being off screen. Yeah. So we didn't get to see any of it actually happen, and we didn't get to see any of the impact it had on her. Just none of it. It's just she just shows up in the middle of a battle and she can just do everything. And she's able to wield Mjolnir like Thor does, without any training or any prep or anything. She can do it all. It's just one thing that you should probably show the audience.
It's declared that she's been Thor for about a minute, and she's amazing at it. It's like, okay.
She says she's never fought a bad guy before. This is her first one.
So
she even just admits she's not been trained or anything.
And let's just say she's doing better than Thor.
Kind of stuff.
Because she knocks out things faster and more efficiently than he does in the first fight.
Yep. And for the people in chat, because Mjolnir was shattered into fragments in Ragnarok, right? It has the ability to separate into all its tiny little parts, and so she can basically fire it like a giant fucking shotgun at people. Yep.
And it's way better now than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so she can fire that into a crowd of people who are all fighting each other, and it only hits the bad guys. It never hits a good person.
I think we've kind of established that Mjolnir has a life of its own now. It's its own entity. So,
and on that point, right, if I can, I'm frustrated because when I was you do a little bit of theory crafting here and there when you're in your calls with your friends, and you're like, how is Jane going to get reassembled Thor? And me and Fringy were talking. We were like, look, if we had control over this, how would we write it? And I was like, okay, what if she's a science person? What if those pieces were collected and there was just nothing to be done with them? And then Thor hands them to her. He's like, if study it, see what you can find out, because this thing is one of the most important weapons when it comes to saving the world. I need help. Studies it for ages, even has Asgardians to help her out. And maybe we can tie in how she manages to reassemble or fix it in some way with Asgardian fucking glue. I don't know. That it, for that reason, imbues her with temporary power or something like that. We can probably tie it up. No, we're not given a reason. It just can do that and does do that. Meaning it could have done this the whole time. It just didn't.
Yep. Because I'm kind of working on my review of this movie, and one of the points I'm making is like, wow, if Thor could have reassembled Mjolnir like immediately and not had to waste all that time crafting Stormbreaker, he could have got to Thanos and stopped him way before he got all the Infinity Stones, and
it's a joke.
None of the rest of Endgame would have happened.
It doesn't make any sense because Mjolnir picks Jane because of Jane's cancer and their bond, whatever. But that also means that Mjolnir was in full autonomy to reassemble itself at any point, at any time. And Thor lifts Mjolnir and passes it to Jane and says, woof, just checking. Which still means that Thor is worthy. So why wasn't Mjolnir with Thor the whole fucking time?
No idea, dude. No fucking clue.
Yeah, because if it's to protect her... Thor holding the hammer would have been able to protect her the most.
Mjolnir doesn't know that until she gets cancer, until it's known that she's got cancer. It's just fucking chilling out over there for 4 fucking years,
It's
doing
on
nothing.
the floor for ages, yeah.
It would have thought that the best way to protect her at that moment when it gets destroyed is just to immediately reform and go back to Thor, because it was staying with Thor for a reason, so it should have carried on with its own internal logic.
This is the problem with shitty writers. There, I said it. You want your payoff, the big shock. Mjolnir is destroyed and unusable. That's terrifying. Holy shit, he's lost his hammer. But now we want to have the payoff where we have the hammer, so fuck it. It can just reform. Fuck you. It's like, okay, you've just fucked the stakes of your previous story, Taika. Like, why should I care that the thing is deassembled when you can just come back together again? Why does that matter?
I still don't know why she's worthy in this, because I've only just thought of it, but she comes across as incredibly arrogant, because when she gets diagnosed with cancer, they're treating her. She could get treated. And it's like, oh, you want to be back in the lab? It's like, well, what's she going to do? Is she going to be like trying to save the world or something, so she's worthy of being the hammer? No, she's trying to cure cancer. She thinks that I know better than the entire medical industry throughout all of human history, and just give me 10 minutes with it. I'll probably come up with something better than they have. So,
you know how she gets the idea to go to Mjolnir, right? And it's so fucking dumb. It's like she just happens to look at a book of ancient Norse mythology, which is on her shelf in her lab, because we've all got Norse mythology books in our fucking high tech labs.
I'll allow that. She dated Thor. I'll allow it.
Well, okay, yeah. But then she sees the section on Mjolnir, and this is, by the way, is a human book written by humans about Norse mythology, not about Asgardians specifically. And she sees this bit about Mjolnir, how it can grant enhanced strength and health. And she the camera just fucking zooms right in on health.
But it's not true.
It's just
like a video game,
But she's like, I require large quantities of health. I'm going to go and get Mjolnir, even though it's broken into a million pieces, and for all I know, it's been destroyed and it'll never work again. I require health, so I'm going there just in case it might happen. And that's it.
She wants the opposite of that, though. I don't get it.
She wants the hammer for selfish reasons, which means she shouldn't be worthy, because it's only to benefit herself, not the world.
Exactly.
Except you guys forgot the scene. I knew this fucking scene would happen, by the way. I said it like it was the one worry I had with Thor credits her with like all of his good attributes. He's like, I was a bad guy before I met you. You're the reason I'm worthy. I was like, fuck off, dude. You've worked so hard yourself. But no, of course it was her. She has all the ideas, the principles she imbued you with. There's nothing to do with you or anything you've learned across all your adventures, not just with her. Like, I knew they would make her his core.
Did you like as well how they had to kind of work around Natalie Portman basically just getting pissed off and leaving the franchise? And it's like they had to construct a reason why they broke up. And it's nothing even specific. It's basically just like he got scared of losing her, she got scared of losing him, so they drifted apart and then she left.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Blame him for it.
She had this reason for breaking up.
She
dumped him, and then she blames him and says, "You left before me." It was like, no, that's not the
story.
You just told on the screen.
And you know what her reason is for saying that he left first? It's like, well, you weren't around to see me leaving.
So saving the universe.
It's like, yeah, because I was fucking saving the world. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's way worse than that. So on one hand, they want us to believe he's obsessive with her, like a puppy dog, remembers every single day he's not with her, wants to be with her all the time, and she's like brushing him off, like, calm down, bro. Like, it was one time we were together, that sort of thing. But simultaneously, they want us to know he just couldn't give her the time. He never could. And then they show us examples of it where he's saving the fucking world. I don't understand what they want us to think about this. Like, that loser boyfriend who's obsessive with her and does everything she wants, except he's not there when the world's in peril. What a dick.
It's like who's doing a more worthy task here, right? It's like he's saving the world, she's writing a research paper for her lab. It's like I hate to balance this out in this way, but it's like I'm pretty sure what he's doing is more important than what you're doing. So he can justifiably leave because he needs to. You're not that important.
We get another a bit though with Marvel getting their heroicism completely screwed, because Thor's off doing saving shit, and she's doing her research, and there's nothing wrong with her doing her research. But what does Marvel do for the movie? Starts plastering her on the front of all these magazines which creates this vanity aspect of her work and her research and a celebrity aspect to it, which doesn't work really together with her just being a research person, and kind of makes her feel more of a, well, you know, arrogant and not worthy to receive Mjolnir, because it's suddenly becoming a little bit hubris. Oh, you had your saving the world. I had my life. I had my research. I had my papers. I'm on the front of People magazine, this magazine, that magazine, and you weren't here to pick up my fucking letter to say I'm leaving you.
Well, remember the bit where the physics student is sitting next to her and he's reading one of her books, and you know, she's like, she looks over at him and she's like, "Huh, I wrote that," and then she fucking rips a page out of it because it's like, I'm going to explain to you how.
Oh my god, dude!
And she does that thing that they even reference Event Horizon and fucking Interstellar, where it's like, oh, we're going to fold the sheet of paper and then punch 2 holes in it, and it's like, why do you need to do that then if you've already referenced it? It's been done in other movies.
And by the way, that's when I knew the movie hated me personally, when it said, Interstellar makes a lot of sense, you should check it out. I was like, fuck off. Interstellar's like a fucking lick of sense, I swear to God.
Taika Waititi's like, I've pissed off Mueller with this one.
Of course it makes sense to him. He makes movies that make no fucking sense anyway. So it's just like, whatever. I don't even know
what was Hemsworth doing in my hot dog man outfit? Hey,
that's
my fucking plushie that's coming soon.
But as a writer, gentlemen, allow me to propose to you an alternate scene where she is minding her business and someone who's reading a book, her book nearby, looks up at her. She gets uncomfortable because she knows that this guy's recognized her, but she's hoping that she's not going to get spotted because she's got this cancer that she's dealing with and she just wants to be left alone. But he comes over and he's like, "Oh, this is you, isn't it? That you wrote this book." And so she reluctantly has to say, "Yeah, that's me." Yeah, and she puts on a brave face to be nice to this guy, and then he goes on his way, and then she kind of slumps down because she's fucked after this treatment. That produces sympathy for her character.
Or what about the guy comes up to her, says maybe she's got reading a book, maybe she's got whatever, and he's, "Excuse me," and she looks up. And he says, "Are you this Jane Foster?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, do you mind signing this book?" And then she kind of goes to get a pen, and then he sees the IV drip of the chemo, and then he's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and he just goes without even getting his autograph.
But no, why would you have that when you can have Darcy come in and say, "Jane Foster, you are suffering from stage 4 cancer. This is really serious."
How many stages are there, drinker?
She even like
4.
Maybe there's Darcy says like something along the lines of like, "You should be here, and yet you want to be in the lab because you feel that you can do more good there than you can here," or something. I was like, "Shut the fuck up! I want to be able to figure this out myself. I don't need you telling me how everyone feels." And then
top or get the fuck out.
You can't resist, can you, Az?
She has incredible breasts.
They do it with Gore a couple of times. Gore has to keep fucking reminding us, "My daughter died, by the way," and that's made me sad. I know.
We saw it was at the beginning of the fucking film,
and then you have
we haven't forgotten our attention spans on that fucking bad.
You have the fucking Boulder Man sitting there going, "Hey, Valkyrie, isn't it your whole deal that you're sad that your sisters died in battle and that now you drown your sorrows in alcohol, this, that?" I was like, "Are you kidding me? We knew all of this from the fucking previous movie. Why are you telling me? Stop." You don't trust the audience at all.
But even with the main serious topic of her, like, cancer, they make it out so they really imply that if she doesn't touch the hammer, she'll be fine. Which I don't really make, because
I don't know.
Like, it's never forever if you don't do this. It's like, she could have had it where you have a choice between saving the universe or living a normal life for as long as you kind of got. But they're like, "No, we'll just live forever if you just don't touch the hammer." So she's then choosing between their future life and the hammer, which
the film is really kind of shady about this, where it never really explains what her chances are. A few doctors make an offhand comment about like, well, we can try more aggressive treatments, but we don't know because the hammer's like fucking things up for us, and we need to like
somehow.
Yeah, like you don't really know what her chances are, and so it's not really a clear choice. Like for all we know, she could be completely fucked, and it's like she's just going to die no matter what. But then, it would make more sense, like you say, is if she had a fighting chance at least with the chemo. But it's like she has to make that conscious decision. Well, no, Thor needs me. I got to use this hammer one last time, and if it costs my life, then so be it. Okay, fine. But like it's never really clear.
It's not. What's it? It's not. I'm trying to look for his name. It's not Stellan Skarsgård, is it?
Yeah,
but
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. All right. Okay. Boo. Oh, cool.
You recorded it from his bedroom.
Thank you. Doesn't he say very briefly that the treatments are not having any effect? When he's on the
sorry,
when
we can't figure it out. Yeah, there's nothing we can do or something like that. Which
I think they've said she's got stage 4. So how is she going to fight back against this cancer then that they're claiming?
I guess they want us to think she would have lived longer had she not gone with Mjolnir, I guess.
But I'm not trying to be, I'm not, okay, you know, having as somebody who has gone through a cancer scare in their life, I'm not trying to diminish anything. But 6 months, 1 year in the grand scale of life isn't going to be too much.
Yeah. The problem is they didn't make it clear at all. I don't know if that was the exchange or not.
What I got from it, but I only got it from the end credit sequence when she turns up in Valhalla, is I thought, but I could be creating a story here, so you tell me. But I thought that the reason why Mjolnir called out to Jane was so that she could wield Mjolnir to be worthy of Thor to do a deed that would get her into Valhalla so she could live on after death.
I don't think there was that much thought put into it.
I thought it was to fucking counter the cancer. I got confused when she still had cancer. I thought that was the whole point when he said protect her, that the thing would protect, but no, it killed her, technically.
So there's a question here.
She went through a really cool story to get Mjolnir. She went to New Asgard.
And there it was. So basically, it's just like a museum exhibit that you can go and visit because it's like in a glass case, and that's really it.
The film's
anyone can go look at it.
The film's reasoning is what Thor said to Mjolnir. That's the film's logic for why Mjolnir is helping. Because you might ask, why isn't it helping everybody who goes through cancer who's a good person? Like, well, because Thor didn't tell Mjolnir to do that.
But how's it helping if it's killing her quicker?
Exactly. None of this lines up. I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense.
A lot of people, this is what sucks about this. A lot of people are going to be like, you just don't like it because it's Lady Thor. And it's like, seriously, dude? There are ways to have done this that I would have been much more on board with. This was pathetic. I don't understand how any of this makes sense.
I even thought it was like, as long as she held the hammer, she was like superpowered, so she'd be fine. Because she was only ever weak when she let it go.
Yeah.
So but then they start having her getting weaker when she's
got the hammer. Yeah.
It's weird. I don't really get it. When they had that first scene where she like drops the hammer and she is normal Jane again, I was just like, oh, why? I thought the whole point was okay. And
I thought that was trying to reaffirm that without Mjolnir, she was weaker and feeble and gonna die soon.
No, she was on a clock. And she was continuing to be on a clock. Mjolnir was just like, would you like to play at being Thor for a bit while you're dying? That was all that was.
Cosplay. Yep. Would you like to cosplay?
Which is so fucking... Can we talk about how on the nose, and I'm sorry, again, I hate using the word too much, but pathetic it was, where Gore says, oh, look, it's you, Lady Thor. And then she's like, don't call me Lady Thor.
That was legit the most cringe moment of the whole film.
Let me introduce you to an idea called the Streisand Effect. When you tell the audience, do not call me X, call me Y, guess what they're going to call you? It's going to be fucking X. You think back as well.
You could tell from Natalie Portman's performance as well, she was not feeling that line.
No.
She was so uncomfortable with that.
But he's a cringe. What's it? Number 1, don't call me that. Call me the mighty Thor. Number 2, if you don't want to call me that, you could call me Dr. Jane Foster. I'd already fucking died of embarrassment in the cinema by now.
I'm fucking cringing saying it.
Oh, man. I'm
cringing with you saying it.
It went into my cringe hole. I couldn't even remember it. That was so bad.
I remembered it because I I went red as a fucking tomato. I was embarrassed for the fucking film having to listen to that. I didn't want to make eye contact with a single person in that fucking room. No way. No way. I was like, oh my God, that is.
It's that same kind of feeling you get if you're watching a film with your parents and a sex scene comes on.
Yes, it was exactly that. It's just like, don't make eye contact with anyone. And try to be like not that interested in what's going on.
And that's the kind of moment where they want the cinema to like cheer for it. It's supposed to be a big, impressive moment. Silence throughout the entire place. They actually power up to be more powerful than Thor immediately after that, because he's already done the whole, we're going to lock weapons, and he was losing. Like, he wasn't as strong as Gore in that moment, and she gets into the same position and just annihilates him with strength. It's like, as long as I re hard enough, I'm more powerful than you.
Well, I was a bit mighty Thor, so
I was a bit baffled by what was going on in that final moment, because it's like she shatters his sword, and so he's trying to like reform it because apparently it can just like reassemble itself. And all the bits are embedded in Mjolnir, and she's just like, oh, I'm going to fucking hit it on the ground really hard. And that is what, like, vaporizes it finally. I'm just like, I don't understand how any of this is, like, tied together.
I was genuinely going to ask you guys to translate that scene.
Sucked up the pieces of the sword into Mjolnir, and Mjolnir's pieces had then encased the sword. Then she smashed the hammer, which smashed the fragments that were in Mjolnir of the sword.
Why does that?
No, because the sword was actually reforming at that time. So she realized if she didn't destroy it at that moment, it was going to escape. So it was just kind of on the edges.
But Disbrew, why can it reassemble when it's crushed into 10 pieces, but not when it's in 50 pieces? Who made up that fucking rule?
It's got a maximum piece.
Mjolnir made up that fucking rule.
I was just going to say, it's funny because it's one of the first huge memeable payoffs that everyone loved in the MCU when it comes to naming. In the fucking movie, it said, he's like, I don't know why people are calling me Iron Man. It's not even Iron. Like, this, whatever. At the end of the movie, he's like, fuck it. I'm Iron Man. Like, I'll own it. It's one of the coolest and most badass little moments for superheroes at that point. We're like, yeah. This movie's like, stop calling me Lady Thor.
All this fighting that was going on, when the sword goes, the sword tries to reform, the sword gets smashed to pieces. It can no longer kill gods. Gore's defeated. Oh no, he just goes into the portal.
He just walks the fucking. Oh, I was losing my mind.
The fucking portal to get his fucking wish.
And he can barely move. He like crawls over.
And this is the thing. Like they all end up there, and Thor, rather than just snapping his fucking neck or whatever and being like, right, I'm having the wish, motherfucker. It's like he just says, oh, you've won. Okay, make your wish.
And what could you have done? What could you have done with that drinker? You could have had Thor go to Eternity, and Eternity says to Thor, I can bring you your father, your mother. I can bring you Loki, your brother. What is your desire? What is your wish? And it could have been all these fucking selfish things that Thor could have had. And then he could have turned around and said, I need to cure Jane.
Dude, I would have taken issue with that still, though, because if you have the power to end suffering, like, as a whole skill...
No, maybe you could have done the entire universe. Everyone's healthy forever.
You can't introduce a wish granted that gives you literally anything ever. There's so many fucking responsibilities you have. And he, instead of stopping Gore as fast as he possibly could, he's like, you know what, mate? If you're going to be a dick and kill every god, I'm just going to go over here. Fuck you. Like, excuse me?
Even that with Gore, he's like... You know, rather than killing all the gods, you could actually bring your daughter back alive. And Gore's just like, I'd never thought of that.
I never.
Because under the
why wasn't that your goal the whole time?
Why does it kill Gore? Why does he have to die to get his daughter back?
No, you don't
He
understand.
doesn't have to die.
He had exactly 1 minute of life left. He was looking at his watch and he was like, oh, fuck. If I bring her back, I can't be a dad. Oh, this is gonna be close.
You notice how they have Christian Bale actually say, like, I'm dying.
Oh, that was so bad. That was so fucking bad.
Because it's literally like, bring your daughter back. That's your solution. And so he's like, but I'm dying. I won't be around to look after her.
What if his wish was, I wish to live on with my daughter?
Yeah.
No, you can't have two wishes. You cheated.
No, I want my entire family to be healthy and live forever.
Exactly.
This is like, what a waste of Christian Bale. What a waste of a great
amen. Because he's great. That beginning bit with his daughter is fantastic. He's great. When he comes into New Asgard, He's, you know, there's some creepy aspects to that. When he's on his own planet and he's using, you know, again, when he moves very slowly and then boom, he's right there in front of you, sort of thing. That's kind of well done. And he was chewing the scenery, just like Hela. He was chewing the scenery. And I'm like, I'm okay with this. You know, I'm okay with
enjoying him,
throwing yourself in and chewing that scenery. But when I got to go back to fucking Taika and fucking resting bitch face and shut up and resting bitch face and, you know, Thor screaming goats for the 4th time. You know, it's done. Use that time to develop your characters. Use that time to show Gore going around fucking mollering these gods. Make us fear him. Make him feel like a real threat. But I don't think they built him up as a real threat, because every time he was there, he either got pushed back, so he had to retreat. So he retreats. He then steals the kids and fucks off, or he comes up against all three. And yeah, although he beats all three, they all get some good licks on him. And when you get good licks on him, you're just like, well, if you get to lick like that, he can go down. So you never in that sort of, I never felt in any part in the whole film that Gore was like, this guy can't be taken down. How are they going to take this guy down? Because he always seemed vulnerable at every stage in some fashion.
I don't understand why in the first fight. Well, yeah, even his are, because what he's like you said, in that first fight, he's disappearing into the ground and everything. That was a really cool ability. My favorite moments of the film are where Thor and him are fighting, because it's the only thing that felt like it had any kind of stakes.
I wanted to like it, but he doesn't killed him like 7 times and he just chose not to.
But he never uses that power for the rest of the movie. He never vanishes into the ground and comes back up again. It's like he just forgot.
Well, the ability to make the shadow things come up and like all the tentacles come out the ground and grab you. Like again, like he only uses that when it's appropriate to the script. When he needs to grab people.
That's why we need to find out what the fuck the sword is.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the sword? The sword could have been, you know, we've got all these traditional gods, Zeus, Thor, you know, fucking Gish, whatever. We've got all these kind of like traditional gods that we have throughout our lore. What if the sword was like, sorry, Mulner, I don't want to, you know, kind of drag your people in, but what if fucking the sword was like the embodiment of essentially a Cthulhu god? And it was the spirit of this Cthulhu god was trapped within the sword, and its mission was to defeat all these fucking human gods, these traditional gods. And that's why it can spout all these tentacles. That's why it can spout all these horror creatures. That's why it can literally go into Gore can go into the dimension of the Cthulhu god to transport himself somewhere, you know, in a split second, which gives the appearance of this teleportation.
That's what I mean.
Never explained a thing about the sword. Not
everything in this film exists in a vacuum, and so like things like the sword are just a simple plot device that allows you to accomplish A, B, and C results. That's all it is. That's all the thought that goes into it. There's no lore behind it. There's no like world building. There's no thought for where this came from. Nothing. It doesn't matter. It's just there to do that one thing that you need it to do.
Where it came from is the problem, because you made something which is incredibly powerful and it should have been discovered, but it turns out some guy's just been killing gods with this like forever, apparently. He was stopped, but before that he was just slaughtering gods and none of the gods cared. They only cared about this guy.
But it only became a problem when Gore was killing them.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that like this is a universe where like, okay, now all the gods exist. Okay, so you've got guys like Zeus, who are like the most powerful god that's ever existed. What the fuck was he doing during the Infinity War? Did he just sit back and let all this shit happen?
He said, Asgardian issues are Asgardian issues, not ours. And it's like, so when Thanos comes after all living things, that's not your issue? It's like, okay, that makes sense.
See, again, they also play with this idea of like, you know, the worshippers, like people's belief in the gods is what gives them power or kind of causes them to manifest. But then it never plays out because like the Christian Bale's god that he prays to, he kind of mentions himself that he's the last believer in that god. Everyone else has died. And so you'd think, well, that god would be weak as a result because no one believes him in him anymore. But he's just like, no, it doesn't matter. The more people will come along. Again, it doesn't even adhere to its own internal logic. Like if he was then portrayed as like weak and dying because like there was no followers left to believe in him, that would mean something. It would mean like, okay, well that's what happens to gods. If belief in them fades, then they fade out of existence. The script just doesn't care. It's like, nah, it doesn't matter. They just exist now.
You know, when he first arrived, as the scene as I was talking about, I did get a genuinely creepy vibe. I was like, this could work in like a horror movie, but they'd never have the balls to do that. When he's doing his plan, I was like, why the fuck is he summoning monsters? And I was like, oh, they're just to fight, I guess, and he's going to try and get some, cheap stabs in the meantime. Then he starts stealing children. And so for people in chat, Gore kidnaps a whole bunch of children in this movie. And I was watching that and I was like, why would he do that? Because I know that his motivation is to kill gods. And I was like, maybe they're bait because he has to bring the gods to a particular place. Turns out that is exactly what he was trying to do. There are so many problems with this. If we go fast forward a little bit to when we find out, yeah, it is bait. They come there. They don't find the kids. Instead, they find him and he tries to kill them and take Stormbreaker. There was no reason for him to drag him there. He could have, like, the attempt to grab Stormbreaker involved him battling all three of them anyway. So what was all of that? And you find out, it's like, well, it's just delay the movie. We need other scenes. We need other stuff. We got character moments to have. It's like Gore just wasted a bunch of time instead of just doing his plan from the get-go. The other element, because this is how I obviously got confirmed if this was the idea, Gore is not someone who wants to torture or hurt anyone who's a non-god. Let's put it that way. He, like, walks into the cage of the kids, shows them this, like, animal creature, and then he's like, this thing likes decapitation, and cuts off its head, and all the kids scream, and he's like, oh, you don't like him anymore, do you? And tosses the head. I was legit like, don't you like kids? Aren't you like, why are you doing this? Why are you just trying to terrify children? What is this? Is this a fucking joke scene?
That's like a pantomime villain, isn't it?
But what was the purpose of kidnapping the kids?
It was to debate them. I just went over how fucking nonsense that was. But I was getting really fucking frustrated.
He kept meeting up with the kids in captivity.
I know, it doesn't make sense. It never makes sense. I'm pretty sure it's to delay the whole fucking film. The last thing I was trying to get out about this was that I was waiting for the point of that scene, and in my head I was like, if he's using them as bait, that's not going to be enough. I need more. Why are you torturing these children? Is it like their sad feelings will make Thor feel it, and they'll like, is that what's going on here? But no, it's just, they only confirm what I was thinking about. And they do it with ADR. This is one of the ones I've just remembered. So he says, like, no one's coming to save you. And then one of them's like, Thor will come. Thor is on his way. And then he looks at them and goes, I'm counting on it. And I was like, oh, there you go. But then
counting on it, said the Riddler.
Starts to like pan over Asgard in darkness, and you get one more line from him, and he's like, "That's my plan." Wait, you fuckers, you serious? You have him say, "I'm counting on it," and then you say, "That is my plan." Like, fuck off.
That's what the Riddler did in fucking Batman Forever.
It's so fucking obvious. You don't need to tell us that.
Batman will come to save us. I'm counting on it.
It's just, it's like pantomime villain. You know, just like cacklingly evil. You know, and just like tormenting these kids just because he can.
You know, we get he's bad. We know that.
You know when she
says, do something with him.
But this is the thing. Like, again, like you touched upon, Muller, like he should have special kind of sympathy for children because he lost one of his own. And so, if anything, he should try and turn them against Thor and say, like, well, Thor let you down.
Thor done for you,
you thought he was going to protect you. Well, he's not coming and he can't protect you, just like my God couldn't protect my daughter. You know, and like just try and like undermine their belief in him. That would have done something interesting, maybe, but nah, it's just got to make him simple. Pantomime villain.
But you don't try and get your own puppy back by capturing or killing a bunch of puppies.
Oh man, it's
almost just like Reaver. It's the Reaver problem. You don't avenge Jedi by killing Jedi.
Remember the Multiverse of Bad film where the villain was like, "Oh, I'm sad I can't get to my kids. I'll just kill everyone." What is that? Like, what are you doing? You can't write villains anymore. You don't know what the fuck's happening.
It's because they try and make out that there's something good about them. That's what it was. Because it's the same thing before. This is the Doctor Strange 2 storyline again. Well, he's doing it for his kid, and therefore anything he does for his kids is kind of legitimate. That's what they want to push. That's their grey area. And everyone else is like, no, you're evil. But if you bring up that he's evil, they'll just go, well, the sword did it. Why was he torturing the kids? Well, it was the sword doing it. It wasn't him. He was fine.
Hey,
that's why he turned good again at the end. It's the same thing with Reva, which she didn't really save anyone except from herself. But in this, he didn't do anything except a selfish action to get what he wanted all along. Like, no, he turned good in the end. They have no sense of morality. I'm not sure.
Dumpling God.
That I think, if anything, if you ever needed a moment in a film where you just realize, okay, none of it matters. Nothing that happens in this film has the slightest impact. It's the Dumpling God.
Which, by the way, you can do that. There are films that are made by Monty Python where you go full into the absurd and fun. You can't do stuff like that and then be like, now for the scene where a cancer victim is saying her last words. Like, what are you doing? Imagine Monty Python just cut to a scene where one of them is having a dramatic scene where they're dying, and then like it just settles for a long time on how sad that is. We'd just be like, oh, okay.
Where's the joke?
Gee. Yeah, we're all waiting for the pin to drop. It was just like, there's nothing. It's just really sad. You're like, okay. I wouldn't have thought you'd go to this level of absurdity.
What if Jane,
pull it back?
on a deathbed, said, Thor, I renounce my God, and I'm now a believer in the Dumpling God.
Yeah.
Maybe the Dumpling God would have
He will save me.
It just cuts to the Dumpling going, yay!
Yay!
Another believer.
That entire God scene had no sense, though, because they didn't really get anything out of it except a weapon. And
they had a
for
couple
all
of
that time,
that
I
so
think
cool.
that scene was only put in to show his arse. I
I
can't think
so.
of anything else. They needed a trailer scene.
But
I think
That's
Hemsworth
just
was
talk
like,
about
look,
can we
I
talk
killed
about the
myself in the
tattoo?
gym.
Can we just talk about the tattoo on Thor's back?
Oh, why did you remind me of that, you fuck?
I'd forgotten about that as well as it scrolls down.
Do you want to tell chat? Tell chat what it says.
There is a love heart cut in twain, tattooed on Thor's back by what looks like a 5-year-old, and Thor and Loki, brothers together, brothers forever, whatever, on his back.
Well, there's also Rip Loki as well.
Rip Loki, yeah.
Yeah.
Rip Loki.
Like, I need to watch the opening of Infinity War with Taika and be like, why do you see comedy here? Like, I know you can try and make light of past dramas. That's totally chill. But like, Thor is a character. He is someone who really cares about Loki and had to watch him get killed, the life squeezed out of him in front of him right after his redemption.
One of the most poignant moments.
Yeah, where their brotherhood has finally come around. And if you remember, because it's kind of interesting, because
I am
like,
Loki
we're going
Odinson.
It's so fucking good, dude. But when the idea right before that scene is we're heading back to Earth, and Loki's like, they don't like me, and he's like, Thor's like, no, we're gonna try and make this work because I know you, I fucking love you, man, and we're working together. It's like, yes, Earth will want you to be, tried for war crimes, but it's like we're gonna get something done here, but it's like it's all cut short. Loki becomes a hero in the previous film in some ways, and then he's killed. But as I just said, his final lines are about how he fucking considers himself Thor's brother and Odin's son. It's really good. And then Tiger's like, wouldn't it be funny if we put Rip Loki as a tattoo on Thor's back? Wouldn't that be so fucking funny? And I guess I don't get it. I'm just like, okay.
Which Chris Hemsworth interview? He says this was written by the mind of a 7-year-old, and he kept suggesting things to me, and I just kept saying yes. And it's like, perhaps you shouldn't. Perhaps at some point you should go, no, that's not my character. And the characters who know the characters better than clearly
what is
Waititi
Thor's
does.
character? He's all over the place.
He is all over
Humiliation is the kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like Taika used up all of his best jokes on Ragnarok, and he had nothing left. And this is just like the dregs that he kind of had to like craft together into some kind of plot. And that's what you get in this movie. Because, none of the gags really land. None of the humor that should have been good really has any impact. It's just shit like this that's just, it feels so off. And I don't know.
I'm not even sure they classify as jokes. There's no punchline to this. That tattoo, there's no punchline to that. Screaming goats. It's like, well, what's funny about? Well, it's a goat that screams. Oh, okay.
What's the thing?
But what's the joke about it?
And if it doesn't come across, if it enters a level where it's so absurd, where you're just like, why would you even do this? Then it's not going to reach funnies. But was also going to say, like, seriously, we've seen him try this before, and I think he's succeeded before, but I don't know what happened in this movie, because if you think about Thor 2, it is supposed to be, I don't know if when you guys last saw it, when Loki, quote-unquote, dies in that film, it is a dramatic and sad moment, but Thor 2 is the film that tells you he didn't die in that scene. They show that he's alive and well at the end. It's like, oh, okay. Thor Ragnarok, we got Thor pretending to be Odin and putting on a show that celebrates Loki's heroism, and he's watching it. And so, yeah, that scene is made into more of a levity one when they're recanting it. If you remember Matt Damon and Liam Hemsworth, I think, they're both repeating the dialogue of the scenes from Thor 2, and it's amusing because we know that Loki has put this show on for himself, matching character. What I'm trying to say here is you can convert a dramatic scene into a comedic one when you've got a lot of mechanics working in your favor for why this would happen. I can't even begin to tell you why Thor would get that tattoo. I don't know why. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with him to think that. Do you remember how he felt about Loki dying? Like, it was never, lol, I'm going to get a tattoo that says RIP Loki on it. Like,
The thing is, some of the best jokes are where it relieves tension at the end of a serious scene. So it would have carried more weight if they'd done a really serious part with him and Loki, and then made not a tattoo, obviously, but they could have made some kind of joke that it's just like him trying to cope.
Why though? Why can't you let something sit?
Yeah.
Why can't you just let something sit and let the audience just kind of like take that in?
Oh, I agree.
Because he's lost his mum, he's lost his dad, he's lost Loki, he's lost his friends apart from Sif. They've all been killed by Hela. And even they were made a joke at the beginning of the movie. I don't know who this guy is. He's dead. I don't know who that is.
This fucking guy, yeah.
You know, it's just like, oh, go fuck yourself. You know, it's just like you're diminishing your own product here. So why, if you do something serious, just let something serious hit. Just let the severity of somebody gone sit with your audience and let them just take that one in.
I would also go as far as saying, like, we're talking about how to maintain a balance and how to do it well. There are examples. It's tough. I don't even consider this really a balance anymore. It's like 95-5. It's like so heavy on one side at this point. Whereas this is, because again, Jojo Rabbit is a film. There are scenes in that are quite extended that sit on a particular emotion. Yes, there are ones that can undercut others as what I would almost call experimental. It's really tough to balance tone. But like I said, even in Jojo Rabbit, a film where he had full control, he let certain scenes sit because they need their time. This movie refuses angrily. But it's not just this movie. Multiverse of Madness did the exact same thing. It cannot sit on one emotion. It's this weird thing that's happening in movies now, and it's to do with, like, I can't remember who spoke about this first, but it's legitimately to do with the fact that they're like, we don't want an audience to remember the experience with one emotion. They want the cavalcade of, like, that was everything, and I loved it, and then forget about it in a week's time because they're on the next thing.
Well, it's like the TikTok kind of idea that the reason it's so successful is you just keep scrolling, and every time you hit something new, that's a whole new boost of, like,
dopamine.
Yeah, dopamine, and so you keep going and you keep getting. Whereas if you let something sit, then the dopamine won't get there. So you should, in theory, be happier by the end of it if it's hit multiple different things. Same thing in YouTube videos. If you can edit something really fast, it improves retention because people don't get bored and click off. So there is that kind of audience that would prefer that kind of thing. But I do think you're right with the whole. I'm trying to make it out. If you want a comedy movie, how could you make it work? I'd prefer a just pure serious movie. We're never gonna get that. It seems.
Dude, we're not even gonna get 70-30.
General. Yeah, exactly.
I think with something like Thor: The Dark World, which was generally pretty serious, I think that really burned them because it was like the least popular of the Thor movies, and it's kind of seen as like the black sheep of the family. But now they've overcompensated to the point where it's just like, yeah, it's complete farce.
Yeah, completely. Because Infinity War was one of the darkest movies in the MCU, which is kind of funny saying it, right? Because it's not that dark, but it is still the amount of jokes in that film. It's still chock full. But remember the ending? They let you sit with that for a while. They're dead, you know.
I think the issue with this, though, is, like I say, I don't think there is any jokes. So if you've only got absurdity to build on, and you don't actually have, like, they need stand-up comedians to write this stuff if they're going to put in comedy. There needs to actually be jokes. But what you've got instead, if you've just got absurdity, is a parody of yourself, and it just comes across as you're humiliating characters because it's all you've got. You've got to make them the butt of the joke because you've got no other topic. And so anyone that wants a serious movie like me, it just comes across as you're literally destroying your own characters. And it's not like, and it's other stuff you get like, well, they're just destroying Chris Hemsworth. But in this, they make Sif look ridiculous. Like, she wants to die. She doesn't want to help anymore. She doesn't care about the other people that died in battle. No, she will try and fake her own death to get into heaven. And so it destroys her character as well.
It is funny as well, like when, I guess because this is the first time you've really had a Thor movie where he doesn't have Loki to play off, and it creates such a void
He's
in
got
terms
no one
of
to
like
play with.
fighting scenes.
I'm sorry, but the
He
chemistry
had
with
Taika to play off.
He's got what
That's the
has he
thing.
got now? He's got Valkyrie, who's a non-entity in this film, and
Black
fucking
Hole.
Tessa Thompson can't fucking act to save her life anyway. You know, you've got Natalie Portman, who's the romantic interest, but then they don't develop that properly either because they don't know how to handle the fact that she's got cancer and she's like this tragic figure. So that doesn't work either. And yeah, all you've got is fucking Korg, and he's just annoying as fuck.
It's like I think a scene that was supposed to be serious was where Thor says goodbye to the Guardians, and you've got him and Chris Pratt talking. That might be one of the worst acted scenes I've ever seen of any movie. There is nothing there between them. Every line is delivered like a block of wood. I'm like, are you doing it deliberately? Because Chris Pratt can act. Both of you can act. I don't know what that scene was meant to be. It was just deadpan the entire way through.
It's like they were having two separate conversations and they didn't really sync up with each other. It was, it just played really weird. And like you say, it just came across as really awkward. But if you want to talk about bad acting, there's that scene where like him, Natalie Portman, and Tessa Thompson are like trying to figure out how they have to get to the Shadow Realm. And they're just like walking around this hall. And holy fuck, it was like the four of us just got put into a scene and told to do those lines. That's the level of professionalism you see there.
They were delivering the lines like they didn't know the context of the lines. They were just getting thrown out. And it's like, isn't it funny when our characters speak? It's like, is that the joke now? They're just saying words? Like, is that all you fucking got? Because
that might be it. Might be the Big Bang Theory. That it's like, this only tricks people with laugh track. And there's no laugh track in it. So
hoping the audience takes care of it. Because they're signaled
I think this is why I zoned out. Because they were literally just saying words.
Yeah,
and I think that's just what made me kind of zone out.
I just wanted it to end.
It just got ridiculous what they were trying to. I don't know what they were trying to say. Just what words were coming out. So I just zoned out. Then
to give you an example of a quote unquote joke, right? Infinity cones. The joke being there's an ice cream store in New Asgard that makes reference to the Infinity Stones and the Gauntlet, but it's cones because it's ice cream. Ain't that the funniest thing you've ever heard? Now, whether or not you laugh at the fact that they've turned stones into cones because they're incredibly intelligent and just talented comedic writers,
cones with a Z as well.
Have a moment in my own head of like, wasn't Asgard as a people ravaged by Thanos? Isn't it really weird that you make an ice cream store with a punny name about the guy who, first of all, destroyed was it half of what remained of Asgard, which is very little? And then another half of that half when he snapped. I don't know about you guys, but if you were in town, they're like, we're going to be erecting a store that's got a funny name that relates to the person that killed all of us. Like, is that chill?
It's like a Jewish tailor opening up a store called Ouchfits.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely fucking absurd. When I saw that, I was like, so. You don't even know how these people would feel about all of this. And even if you did, you're not taking it seriously. Like, it feels completely off.
Can I ask it? Oh, sorry, on you go.
I was just going to say, was it worth it, basically? Was it worth damaging my view of how these people have gone through this horrible event to have your cone stones joke?
That's what Taika's answer would be every single time, would be yes. It was worth destroying all this stuff just to get a cheap laugh out of people. But the other question I was going to ask you guys is like, what was Valkyrie's character arc in this? Because they set her up initially as like she's kind of like king of Asgard, and she's bored because it's kind of just a dull administrative job, and like she's just sitting through meetings that she wants to leave. But then there's nothing at the end of that to like pay it off. It's just like I assume she just goes back to doing what she did before. Like, there's really no. There's no payoff to that.
I think it's fair to say we all know why she's here for meta reasons. I mean, and it becomes evident that even Taika, probably on set when she asked him about the script, she's like, "How come I'm not in the third act?" He'd probably be like, "We can't have you because it's going to be the main characters. So we'll just say you got stabbed or something. You'll be fine. Don't worry. You'll be in the next one."
Can I say as well? Yeah, that I'm willing to bet that's exactly the conversation. But also, like, there was such a big song and dance about her, King Valkyrie being bi, and they were going to address that in this movie. And yep, they address it in a 2-second scene where she kisses a woman's hand and then leaves, and that literally has no impact to anything else that happens in the story. It's just.
Though I will say it's as jarring as any Disney attempt at doing anything like that, because you're like, wait, why did we focus on? Why was that relevant to anything? What?
Yeah, we all know.
What if the woman's
it's going to be edited out. It's going to be edited out for those international audiences who don't approve of that kind of thing, and it means nothing to the rest of the story.
But what if the woman she kissed wasn't gay?
Too bad.
She just sexually assaulted a woman.
And this is the thing, by the way. Like, this goes for any kind of scene that does anything like this. Like, if Thor did it to just some guy, I would just be like, why? Like, and because if someone's saying like, oh, is it because it's not straight that you have a problem with it? It's like, no. If he did it to some girl, I'd be a little bit confused as well. I don't know what the value of this in the story is, other than being like, she likes girls. Like, okay.
I mean, like, if you're going to make such a big deal out of this, like publicity wise and in the meta and stuff, like, okay, at least have the balls to follow through with it in your story. Like, have her actually get into a romantic relationship with someone. Show us something that we can actually care about. But it's like,
have someone that cares about her, right, in the town, who's in a relationship with her and doesn't want her to fucking go off and fight Gore because she's worried she'll die. Something like that. But easy.
The weird thing about that interview was she didn't make a big deal out of it. The press did. Everyone showed the big comment about she's going. We had a lot of conversations about it, but just after that, she says that I feel it's like a down. Like, you shouldn't focus on that as a thing because it's a one-dimensional character, and actually there's other things you can relate to on a person for their personality or their superpowers. I don't know who's going to relate to superpowers. So she actually played that down in the interview, and then all the press made it out. Oh, we're having huge things about how we're going to handle this. And if anything, if she was pushing for it, it sounds like they spoke to her and said, no, we can't have this as big because there's other things that people have. To me, it did sound like they were downplaying.
Her interview should have been, I'm only in this film because I'm fucking the director.
One thing I wanted to bring up is, like, if you had a robot summarize that scene that's a part of, right, and it knows to transfer to you all of the expositional information you need that comes from it, but it can't discern what's important and what isn't. It would be like, their chariot arrives and a lot of them grab the lightning bolt and they get on it, and Valkyrie's by, and you'd just be like, I'm sorry, I got all of that. What was that last bit? And it's like, well, I don't. That's information that comes from the scene, and you're like, okay, but why do I need to know that? You're like, well,
see,
I don't know. Like, it's just there. Like, okay.
Now, I want to contrast this with Stranger Things, right? And I'm not trying to segue here, but I think this is a good point.
I haven't seen any.
Don't be spoiling. That's all.
Well, okay, I'll go easy on this one, but like, I'm sure, as you even know, that one of the subplots is that Will is.
No, I don't know anything. No, I have unbelievably avoided all spoilers for season 4 of Stranger Things.
You saw the previous season, didn't you? Like, and there was already
1 and 2.
This is something that is referenced, technically speaking, in season 1, 2, and 3, and it doesn't spoil a thing. I wouldn't even say it's not going to change your experience watching season 4 to know what what he's about to say.
So, the way this is handled is that he is clearly a person wrestling with a difficult decision to make about what to say to his friends, because he knows what he is. He knows that he's gay, but he doesn't know how to bring it up with his friends, and he doesn't know how to express himself. And so there's various scenes throughout the series where he struggles with it. He wants to say something more. He will talk about a person who's different and doesn't know how to fit in or doesn't know how to relate to people, and he's obviously referencing himself. The show does a pretty good job of building up the struggle that he has, because obviously the show's set in the 80s, and so it was less acceptable back then, and fine, I can totally get behind that. That means something to his character development, because there's something behind it, and it's something that he's trying to get out, and it's something that he's worried about changing his relationship with his friends, like Mike, for example. That is good writing from the character point of view. In Thor, It's nothing. It's just a throwaway moment. No one cares. It doesn't mean anything. It's just there and gone. Okay, cool. So why should any of us care about it? Because it changes nothing about Valkyrie's character. That's the difference there. And that's the difference between working it into the storyline so that it actually has an impact on character development, or just making it a throwaway scene that doesn't do anything.
Which, by the way,
I don't think it's even meant to do something. It's literally in like it. People say checkboxes all the time, but that's what they use. It's a literal checklist, and now they can go, well, half of the primary cast are gay. That's all it's there for. And so for any kind of thing, any importance, if anyone complains, they go, well, here's your representation. Have at it. Be fun. Did
any of you get any sort of sense like that with the? I don't want to lead you on this because I want to conclude something that I think is kind of interesting. Korg's scene where he says he's going to make a kid with someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, he sets up, Korg, that the way his people have children is that he gives an example of himself. He's like, my 2 dads went to a volcano and like they walked into lava or something, and then they come out of it and they'll have like a little rock, and that's the kid. It's like, okay. The payoff for that is that at the end of the film, they're like, what's Korg up to? Well, Korg found a man, and they show a guy, and then it's like, and I'm having a kid with him. My audience laughed at that.
With a big handlebar mustache.
Well, so this is part of it. I was like, I wonder if part of what is like being laughed at by the audience or not or something is the film kind of being like, ain't it funny, gay
rock.
Which to me is just like, wait, what? Like, isn't that like the opposite of what you guys are trying to do? Like,
if your species only has one gender, then it can't be gay because you've got one gender.
That's why I was lost. I was like,
I'm going to be charitable to Waititi, right, and say I assume the punchline of the joke is just the fact that it's an alien species, and yet he's called Doug, and he's got like an obvious handlebar mustache. Like it's human name and human characteristics on a fucking rock monster that's like a complete alien species, and I assume that's meant to be the joke. But
it's a typical biker gay. It's a blue blue oyster bar. He's from the Blue Oyster Bar, that dude.
But doesn't
it kind of made him a bit of a mocking?
That's what I'm saying. Like, that doesn't seem like the kind of jokes they like to make. They don't tend to be like, look at this stereotype rock gay. You'd be like, okay. Are you asking me to laugh at this? Because I guess I could, but like I don't know, it just seems weird.
If you put one of those leather black caps on him, perfect.
Yeah.
Would have been the whole ensemble would have been come together then.
Open at the front, you know.
Also, so those leather strap things that go across your check pecs or whatever. If you put that on them, perfect.
I was going to say, by the way, Drinker, because I'll reference season 3. You saw season 3 of Stranger Things, right? Or at least Drinker did. If you remember, I know people. This is gonna be contentious because like I'm already contentious enough saying I fucking hate all of season 3. But Robin, the girl in season 3, there's a part in it that she explains she kind of hates Steve when she's working with him because he was always everything worked out for him, and she always looked at him in class, and that he never noticed her. And what you're led to believe with that, and Steve is too, is that she's saying I have a crush on you. Or did, and it never went anywhere. And once they spent enough time with each other in that season, which is some of the stuff I actually kind of was okay with. I hate a lot of it, but I didn't really hate that much. Specifically their relationship, not where they are or why they're there. It's so fucking stupid. But there's a part where they've kind of made it out, and Steve has been looking for a girlfriend. That's like part of what's been happening for him. And he says to her, like, and I realize I found her, and she's not exactly the girl I ever thought she would be. And, you know, he's trying to be romantic, and he's basically describing her, but in the third person. Until she started, like, her smile drops, and she realizes, like, oh shit, he probably got the impression that I had a crush on him, and so she has to let him down and explain she's gay, and the reason she was jealous of him was because the girl she had a crush on wanted to go out with him, and it's like, okay, trying to piggyback off your point, there's a reason it comes up, and it's a part of their dynamic, and their dynamic is one I actually really liked in season 4 as well. I know some people don't. Point being, once again, there's purpose, and the Duffer Brothers are probably like invested in having characters that are gay, but they're trying to find ways to intertwine it. There's reasons these things rise. There's reasons it creates pros and cons with relationships in the media. But here like I said, if someone was just describing the events, I'd just be like, why did you tell me she's bi? I don't understand. Like, I'm curious how that works with anything. It's just like, what, do you not like to know she's bi, but you're happy to... If a character just said, by the way, I'm straight, I'd be bringing it up. I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like, why did they announce that? I don't care if you're straight.
Yeah, if you try to announce it, you're kind of... You're setting the tone that it means something, that it's significant in some way. But if you don't pay that off, like with some kind of like repercussions for the character or how they behave or how it affects their relationships with other people, then you haven't fulfilled that promise of it being significant somehow.
But isn't that typical Disney? It is all superficial. They virtue signal all the time, but they don't ever commit. You know, you might see a stolen kiss here or there. That stolen kiss will get edited out for specific audiences. Then the press will make a huge deal out of it. And when you go and see it, it's a non-entity.
Yeah, this is, I guess, was the point I was making, that they never go all in with it to the point where it actually affects anything. It's all just really brief, superficial stuff. So like Disparu said, you can tick a box and say, we did this. We got this character
Be proud of us.
This thing. And then if need be, you can edit it out without affecting the rest of the storyline. And it's the most cynical, corporatized, like, you know, slimy way of doing this kind of shit that's possible to do. And they still expect credit for it. And that's what's so crap about the whole thing. That's what's so disheartening about it.
The strangest interview or comment that I've seen is where she said this is the gayest movie ever, because it's really not. And it's like, I don't know why you're bragging. It sounded like that's how she thought she should answer the question, rather than that's something she actually believed. So when she was asked a question, oh yeah, of course it is. You'll love that. I'm just giving you what I think you want to hear. When you go and watch it and you're like, there's barely any references to it in the entire movie.
No, it's camp as a row of pink tents, but the campness of it isn't like, we're Brits. That might shock
if you didn't know.
Yeah.
But we're Brits, and when we talk about camp, we have kind of like almost a bawdy aspect to camp. It's kind of sexual. You know, there's like innuendo all over the place. You know, misses, double entendres, the whole kind of business. But this was just kind of like camp, as in silly. There wasn't kind of like a double entendre nature to it. There wasn't a flip side to it, a double meaning to it. Nothing like that whatsoever. It was literally just. I did a spoiler-free interview earlier, and I said it did feel like a lot of the kind of conversations were just Taika saying, like, not Feige, but Feige, is it, for Ghostbusters, whatever?
Yeah, Paul Feig.
Paul Feig, yeah. We're just like, just go for it. Just go for it. And that's, you know, like with the handshake at the end when the Guardians were going, it was just like the, you know, human handshake, you know, Asgardian handshake, snake,
Ooh,
you know,
yeah.
what? And it was just like, no. That, you know, that was just kind of like, okay, cheers for that, Chris. Now let's do it this way. But there was none of that. He just kind of let stuff go, and the lines were just inane.
Stale.
Just didn't bring anything to it. They weren't funny. It felt like you should have heard somebody go, cut. Now let's do it this way. Now let's do it the way the script's got it. But no, we didn't get any of that. So we just got these stupid scenes after stupid scenes after stupid lines after stupid jokes. And then when you got a moment at the end, Jane's going to die now, folks. Jane's going to die now. And I'm sat there and I'm like, probably should feel something, but I don't. And the reason why I don't feel anything is because you haven't cemented it throughout the course of the film. You haven't done anything to earn this moment. You haven't, and that's the frustrating element, because you could have done a lot with Korg and his daughter, you know, a lot with the way that his motivations are driven because of the death of her. And the absolute disdain that he has for gods because of the way that they look down on the people who have literally devoted their lives to these entities. But you didn't. You had him kidnap a bunch of kids and torment kids, which makes no sense. Actually, and when things don't make any sense, it pulls you out of the movie.
Moeller, Imagine if because we've covered Shaun of the Dead before, right? And it's a similar idea where like you've got a comedy on the face of it, but like it's punctuated by moments of genuine like tragedy and drama and stuff. Imagine if Edgar Wright had directed this movie.
Oh, it would be so much fucking better, dude.
Imagine how it would have turned out.
Dude, you know the element that Edgar Wright
he was going to do Ant-Man, wasn't he?
That pisses me the fuck off. I'm going to bring this up again once Az leaves when we talk about Stranger Things, if that even happens. But music. Edgar Wright is the perfect guy for when you want to involve music. Fucking Taika just played Guns N' Roses' album randomly. Do you know how much I fucking hate that shit, man? Like, when you rely on the people liking the song. It's Suicide Squad, the 2016 one. This is famous, where it just goes, you like this, so I wish for you to like my thing now that I've played it. Now, Stranger Things is season 4 is one of the best in terms of examples of using a song to punctuate your story further, adding meaning. That's as far as I'll go. As you got to see season 4, okay? But the other thing I want to bring up to actually bolster Az's point about when things don't quite make sense. I don't know if you guys felt this way, but I certainly did. Gore hates his god because his god was a cunt. Now I want to kill all gods. I feel like we've jumped a couple steps because the first thing we find out about the gods he kills are on that planet right at the beginning, where they tell us we had gods that protected and provided for us. They're dead, and now there's war. So Gore has made it worse for these people. And it's because he has no sense of choosing. And nobody brings this up. Nobody brings up the fact it's like, dude, you're killing good gods too. Because for some reason, he's gone full one-dimensional mode where every god is bad. When in reality, it was just his god that was a piece of shit.
This is why his arc should have been built up more slowly. Like, and maybe it should have been, Zeus or someone that was responsible for his daughter getting killed. Zeus didn't care or whatever. And like he is on a quest then to destroy Zeus and everything that Zeus has built, like all the pantheon of the gods and all that stuff, rather than just immediately taking revenge on that one god who fucked him over, and then that's it. Like he's essentially completed his mission already. So that could have been built up more slowly over the course of the film. You could have taken a little bit longer before he finds the god slaying sword, whatever the fuck it's called.
Well,
and that could have been his arc throughout the film, but it's like, no, everything has to be done just immediately. Get straight onto the next thing.
And I'm seeing people in chat already doing what Disproves brought up before, which is, you're gonna tell me that he was corrupted by the sword, so why the fuck do you bother giving me a motivation then? If none of it actually matters and he's just corrupted, then just let him be corrupted. Why even tell me?
Yeah,
that's his only motivation. After he kills that one god, it's the sword.
But let's just say he kills his god. He kills his god, which is a twat. And then he's just, because he can never bring his daughter back. He knows there's no eternity. Then let's just, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm just saying for argument's sake, saying, well, in which case then I'm going to kill all fucking gods. I'm going to kill all of these potential liars, all these potential this, that. That's how his mind's now functioning, okay? So we hear a couple of times, we hear the bit on the planet that the gods are dead and war's broken out. We hear when Sif calls for Thor's help, he gets there too late, and this massive god that you see in the trailer is apparently a good god, But then we go to the pantheon of the gods, with Zeus, and they're all a bunch of fucking assholes.
Yeah.
And Zeus is an arsehole, and everyone that kind of follows him is basically an arsehole. And then you have Jane get into battle with Gore, and she says, "You're killing innocent gods." And I'm just like, what?
Remember, as a key line, what does Zeus want to do outside of the fucking cringe orgy lines? He says, who's had the most people sacrificed to them this week or whatever? Which is just like, immediately our cast of heroes are like, oh, they're not good. And then you have her later say they're all innocent. Like, I'm very
killing innocent gods. No.
Is there not a line as well from Thor where they're talking about like feasting, and he's like, but we're not going to feast on the children. Not again.
Time.
Not again.
Dude, Taika Waititi all over. Because you're like, Taika, did you just imply that Thor ate children?
Yeah, the Asgardians feasted on children for a period of time.
Funny. Isn't it funny though? Come on.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's like
Thor's
just
a
think about it. Laugh at the
and
joke.
they're a kid killer. So
well, that's the thing for me. It's starting to make me think like, what's funny is how his brain works. Like, I'm laughing because I'm like, you think that's funny?
No,
What's wrong with you?
I genuinely think the morality of like so many writers in Hollywood is just off the scale. They have no sense of morality. It's like the reason why it matters whether Gore is acting on his own agency or the sword is tainting him is because if it's his own agency, then he's evil and you can just go out and kill him and that'll be fine because you're ending evil in the universe. If he's actually tainted by the sword and he's good after all and he's just destroyed by the sword, then you should try and save him. It's actually immoral to just slaughter him without trying to say that should be like last resort if he's going to do something horrible. But instead, it's like, oh no, this sword's corrupted him, so he can just do whatever he wants. Same in Doctor Strange too. If it's the book that turns her evil, then you should be trying to save her. If it's not the book and she's just doing it anyway, then have at it. But they don't seem to actually. They're so busy trying to stay in a grey area because it allows them to do what they want that there is no sense of good and evil in any of the movies anymore, and that takes away from
there's no stakes.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Did anyone notice a little trend? And I'm not exactly sure what to make of this. Phase 1, we have Ironmonger was electrocuted by the core reactor being overloaded by Pepper and Iron Man baiting him in. Whiplash, he was blown up. What's his name? Abomination was like stabbed and then he was spared by the Hulk when people implore him to. Then you've got Captain America. He fucking eviscerates, like the Red Skull is disintegrated because of he was holding the thing. Loki is captured, and then Loki's defeated in Thor by falling into space, so he's presumed dead. And then you fast forward to where we're at now. Multiverse of Madness, the villain kills themselves, quote unquote. She's coming back. Then we got this movie where the villain just dies because he runs out of time. No Way Home, they're cured. Eternals kills himself. Shang-Chi killed by big spooky dragon, then that's killed by an arrow. Black Widow, they kill him. I don't know, man.
Did he die of fucking embarrassment?
I think so. Yeah. Like
they killed.
I don't want to be in the sequel.
I'll just say it. They killed him because he was a straight white man.
Yeah.
He was also Ray Winston. Okay. He's got a soul down.
I'm a Ray Winston with a really fucking weird mixture of Cockney and
great accent. What do you mean? Fucking hell! I can't believe that movie happened. All of these movies, man, they're all garbage. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's
killed by a transvestite because there was a man and then it took the helmet off and it's a woman.
I just don't know what to say about like how we're supposed to, because this was right, like they don't know what they're doing exactly with the villain. They're like, we want you to understand his motivations, and then they get tangled up into thinking like, isn't it sad because he's like got a point? Also, like, you're like, no, like
yeah, because they didn't do anything with it, because you had that great scene at the beginning and literally the bit at the end where he's dying and Christian Bale is acting his ass off. You know,
yeah,
I've got no problem with Bale's acting. He was fantastic as an actor in this. And he's there acting his ass off because he's got seconds left to live. And he's begging Thor to raise his daughter and whatnot. And again, that is a payoff to a setup which was never done throughout the movie. And you can't have payoffs to things which don't exist. You have to make it worthwhile. You have to make the audience want that. But when you're having that bit at the beginning and then he's tormenting kids and then he's doing nothing redemptive at all because you're not quite sure of his motivation other than gods must die.
Well, so
and then, you know, I'm going to get a wish at the well of fucking eternity.
No, Kang's dead.
Yeah.
Fuck Kang.
It's new Kang. Like one of the other multiverse Kangs, he's decided all this.
It kind of just made me think. We've kind of alluded to this, but it's starting to crystallize for me. Like, you have the scene. So Gore is obsessed with killing the gods because fuck them and they don't do anything for people. He arrives at New Asgard, launches a bunch of spider demons onto the town, and all of the gods come out to save their people. He smiles at that. To me, I'm like, so that should already be huge to him, but all right. Then you have the scene where he's just like, gods suck. They let my daughter die, to all the kids. And then the kids are like, Thor's going to save us. And he's like, gods suck, though. But also, yes, he will. And that's why I'm using you as bait. And you're like, wait, so you're relying on the gods' good will and good faith to save their people because you hate them because they don't do that.
Yep.
This is not satisfying. And meantime, as I'm assuming you guys would be on board with, it's like, let's say he does hate a lot of the gods for really good reasons. He fucking kills a whole bunch of them. All of them were the asshole gods. And then, a big payoff at the end is he's about to kill a group of people to do him whatever. And Thor puts his life on the line to save him. And he's confused. He's like, what are you doing? You're a god. And Thor's like, yeah. You have that conflict where he's like, wait, there are gods who actually help their people? Like, what the fuck?
What if he gives the gods an ultimatum? What if Gore is going around, instead of just murdering the gods, he kills his god because he's bad? But what about when he goes from god to god? He's giving them ultimatums, and the ones that are just like, fuck off. And he's like, okay, I gave you a chat. I gave you.
Dude, he could even like pose as a peasant and be like, "I'm begging you for help," and then when they deny him and they say like, "Fuck you, I don't care about you," he can kill him.
Arms for the poor, help me. My farm is something.
That would even explain the aesthetic a bit better. Like, instead of making him look like a demon or whatever, because they're too cowardly to do that, make it so he's like a beggar man. That's like the look he's going for. But then he'll execute them when they show their true colors.
Try and give them an option of benevolence.
Yeah,
and if they don't show it to him, it's malevolence, and so he kills them.
But why do that when you can have the screaming goats as?
I just like.
This one's I know, like, over and over and over again. Yeah.
Some stories will sacrifice character in service of theme. Some will sacrifice plot in service of character. This sacrifices everything in service of laughs. That's ultimately what
and that's the thing. If you're going to do that, they better be fucking funny jokes.
Yep.
But the story you proposed was like a genuine kind of grey area. Well, it's a good character that's doing bad things to essentially add more good to the universe. So that would be like even leaning towards a good villain kind of person. But with this, I think the message is essentially that they want him to do evil things because they want him to be an evil guy, but they want it not to be his fault. It's his environment. So
we don't see him do evil things, though. We don't see him do anything particularly evil apart from kidnap the kids, which he just keeps in a cage because for the whole movie,
to be
for
fair,
Thor to come and save.
They're about to be crushed and he doesn't give a fuck.
There is the scene with Sif just before that. They go, this is a god. This is one of the nicest gods that you will ever meet. And he's just killing the good gods and the evil gods. So I think
But we don't see him kill it.
Yeah, but we're told that's good enough.
Yeah, that'll be too expensive.
Yeah, but I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good enough. Because if you see a dead CGI monster, it's a dead CGI monster.
No,
but if you see Gore the god butcher butchering these fucking things, then we're like, ooh, this guy's not so good. But
I'm just saying,
get told about God being killed, but we don't see any gods get killed apart from the god right at the beginning. It's the only god we see get killed.
Yeah, we're just told about the rest of them. But that's kind of the point, right? That we can conclude he's an asshole because the film told us he's killing nice people. But you're right.
We want to see these. I don't want a film to tell me he's an asshole. I want them to show me so I can feel it and say to myself, this guy's an asshole.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I don't get why you'd be doing it. That's the problem. It's just like, I'm going to take worlds that have happy gods that provide for their people and kill them because gods suck. It's like, did you see the part that didn't make sense there, Gore? Or you corrupted?
But that's why you have to. That's why you have to create the character. That's why you have to develop your fucking character.
By the way, this is the exact same shit as Multiverse of Madness. She says, "I've got to get the girl, kill her, and take her for her powers." Right? And you're like, "Oh, well, but
why don't you just ask her to fucking open a portal to a world where there's the kids?"
Well, no, you'd be like, "So that's evil," and then they go, "Yeah, but she's corrupted by the book," and you're like, "Oh, okay, so she's just pure evil because of the book, right?" And then it shows, "I sent the monsters instead of sending myself because that was being merciful and reasonable," and then you're like, "Wait, so are you evil or not? And why the fuck do you think that's more evil?" Wait, I'm so confused. And then she's like, with Doctor Strange, she gives him 2 big chances to hand over America. It's like, I thought you were corrupted. Why are you being nice to him? I don't understand. Wait, why are you being reason? Why are you taking your time? It's like, you can't have both. Either she's evil or she's not. She can't like be half evil sometimes. And it's the same for Gore. What is he doing? I don't understand it.
They don't want the motivation for evil to come from within the character. It is the environment. So that's why it is the sword, because then it's not him to blame. That's why it is the book, because then it's not her. You've got I don't want to get into real wood stuff, but the entire point is that criminals shouldn't be blamed for their own actions. It is the environment around them. They just need something. They haven't got something. And that's coming through, if that's your belief, into the movie itself. He's not evil because he chooses to be. It's just the situation he found himself in. His daughter died, and therefore it can all be excused. He's not innately evil or wrong. It's just everything else around him that is.
They've done shit like this before better, though. Like, Winter Soldier would probably be the one people would go to as being like, he's not fucking evil at all. He was, like, a product of the experimentation they did on him. But then you also have stuff like Civil War, where it's like both sides have a very serious point to make and they believe in their side. And, you can understand the motivation stuff, but it can lead to really bad acts. Even the Scarlet Witch blowing up the people in the beginning, right? It's like, that's fucking horrible from their point of view. But it's like, well, she saved Captain America and a bunch of other people. It's like, these are complicated sort of situations. Instead of just removing... Like I said, it's such a piss poor way of trying to do the same thing where it injects a bit of grayness or complexity. Instead of just be like, fuck it. Anything you don't like, anything you think is strictly evil, it was the book or the influence thing, okay?
Yeah.
Anything you think is kind of reasonable and you can see why he did it, that was him.
She even came out recently and said that she doesn't see Scarlet Witch as a villain. She's not evil. She was just making some tough choices. I'm like, I can't believe I read the interview.
The actors and the director and the film all disagree on exactly who's responsible for what in that film. Nobody fucking knows, because every decision she makes, you said like all of it's the book. It's like the problem is a lot of the decisions she makes aren't in line with the idea that the book is forcing her to do the most evil and quickest thing. Like I said, being nice to Doctor Strange for a while. Why would the book have her do that? It would just have her kill him.
Well, like good part of her, that would be the good part of her is fighting with the evil part of the
which
book.
comes
like,
through
every good thing is her,
but it doesn't come through when she has a fucking tentacle monster smashing through cities who don't even know what's going on. She doesn't give them people a chance. It's like, oh, so is it the book or not? Does she care about innocent lives or not? You have her say, "I take no pleasure in hurting people." It's like, you
do.
This
you really do.
Of this shit. Remember Cruella? She's not evil. She's just misunderstood. This fucking monster that wants to like murder puppies and turn them into coats. It's like, yeah, this is not evil. She's just this cool punky character that's like a bit misunderstood. Like, oh, fuck off.
Reva's the same shit.
Why was Loki's redemptive arc so good? Because we saw the evil of Loki. We saw his relish in trying to take over New York. We saw his relish when he ripped a guy's fucking eye out. Yeah. We saw it. We saw it in his face. We saw it in his eyes. We saw it in his deeds. We saw it in his motivation. We didn't get told it. We didn't get told, oh, Loki's bad, but he's trying to be good now. We saw the process. That's why we have to see the motivations of our enemies. That's why we have to see the motivation of the villains. We have to see it in action so we can understand it fully, not be told. And particularly not be told by literally a cast of clowns.
Yeah.
We go to a circus and a fucking class of clowns who are tripping up over each other and going whoop, and sticking fucking pies in other one's faces are telling us about the villain. Oh, villain bad. Villain killed God. I don't care what you say. You're a fucking clown. I need to see it in action. And so when you've got this pathetic cast of jokes and jokers trying to tell us the motivation of our villain without us actually seeing it, doesn't work. And it's such a waste of Bale because he's fucking amazing actor. Portman's a really good actress as well. Hemsworth, when he does allowed a bit of, something he can get his teeth into, he's a very good actor. We know Russell Crowe, very good actor. And they're all fucking clowns apart from Bale in this.
Yeah.
And the story, even at the end of this, it's amazing how often they just repeat plot points. Because Reva is only meant to be deemed good because she saves somebody that she was putting in danger. It's the same with Gore in this. He's supposed to be good because he makes a good decision at the end when he was the one that put the world in danger in the first place by going there to destroy everything. So
fucking believable. As you said,
they just have no idea about morality. I think that's the core issue of it.
The whole like how do you resolve someone like Gore being at the footstep of exactly what he wanted and no one can stop him? It's like, well, you just have him realize there was a second option because someone told him. Same for Multiverse of Madness. How do we stop this hellbent woman that's going to destroy all of the multiverse? It's like, well, we have it so that she realizes her kids do not like her being a horrible bitch. It's like, well, that's both of these things seem like they should have been a part of their mindset already. Also, I thought she was corrupted, you fucking worthless script. Like she can just be. How is it that someone can be corrupted and then convinced out of their position? I don't understand. I thought the whole point is that they're so corrupted that they have no inhibitions and they just go for it. But
it's
Yeah,
whatever they need to be at any given moment.
You could have had Gore at the end after the sword has been destroyed, so he's no longer influenced by it at that point. Any actions are solely him. You could have had him essentially undo all of the people that he'd killed. As like he's realized that everything he's done is a mistake. But he would also have to sacrifice his daughter because he's already lost her and he's realizing that at least I can kind of do some good for the universe. So he's making a sacrifice and saving everybody else.
You could have
then you make Tony Stark look like a fucking arsehole, but he was a fucking arsehole.
Well,
you could have Gore once all the monsters that relate to the sword start to dissipate and everything's dying, and you don't have the kids become Thors. You can have them all be terrified, and he realized that he's done that. He can realize that Thor was the one defending them, a god, someone who would never do anything for anyone. You can have that all at once, and you can be like, "Holy fuck, I was wrong. I was so wrong."
Yeah, literally, they're screaming for Thor to help them,
and he does, and that's the lesson that fucking Gore can learn.
Oh, that scene gets worse every time I think about it. He didn't just make all of them sort of equal on power of him. He also created basically an infinite amount, as many as he wanted, of Thor weapons. So all the issue you had about how he forged his hammer from a son, none of that was even needed. Like, as long as he's got sort of, I'm assuming it's the power of Odin that gave him the ability. I don't know how he got that power in the first place.
If you guys saw this, it's funny as fuck, but Movie Bob, in defense of this film, posted the Patrick Willems poster thing of it's a Space Wizard movie for kids, so shut the fuck up. And he explicitly said he loves how that message is given from Taika to all of the critics of the film in the film, as if it's like preemptive. And it's funny because I kind of agree with Movie Bob that is Taika's perspective. You can tell he doesn't give a fuck about what he ruins. But then Patrick Willems saw this. He saw someone reacting to it like, I hate that this gets brought up to defend shitty writing. And Patrick Willems was like, fucking kill me. That is not the point I was trying to make. I was like, oh no, Movie Bob is embarrassing Patrick Willems. It's fucking priceless, honestly. You never should have said it in defense of the movie.
Fair, like, when was the last time Movie Bob had a good take on pretty much anything? Like,
yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but it's so funny. You never see someone roll out it's a Space Wizard movie for kids when it's a good movie. No one's rolling that defense out for that.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't movies like Monsters Inc. and stuff, which are kids' movies, people still like them because they work for adults as well, and there's even bits in it specifically for the adults, even though it's specifically a kids' movie. So
look at
should be parts of this where everyone likes
Incredible.
it. Yeah, well, exactly.
Look at the Toy Story trilogy, because there really should have only ever been 3 of them.
I've only seen the first.
Like, you can enjoy that as a kid, but like as an adult, you get a very different perspective on it, and it means so much more to you. Like, there's absolutely like deeper ideas there that adults will appreciate. So that defense can just fuck right off.
I fucking hate that defense. It's not a defense. I mean, it's
one of my favorite
that my film is shit. Basically, please leave it alone.
One of my favorite kid shows is Beast Wars, and I went back a few years ago and rewatched it again. I'm like, this still holds up as amazing because it delves into really deep and complicated things like time travel and actually does it properly. And about sort of fate and whether with time travel and prediction you can make your own choices throughout the universe. Like, that's really deep for a show aimed at sort of single-digit kids, and to build in layers like that takes talent. And I look, you say Ratiti's amazing or something.
Hey,
no,
I didn't say he's amazing. I said he's got talent and he's made good things.
This is why I don't really.
You're only as good as
I'm terrible with names, so me remembering who's directed what is basically an impossibility. So I just judge the films like as they come along. So I don't even know essentially what he's made, but I don't know. I judge people by their last piece of work essentially. So
I mean,
whether you just used up all your ideas and ran dry, then
tell me, are you doing that for Sam Raimi right now?
Again, I don't know what's because you start throwing names at me. It's like I don't know. I'm honestly, I go by faces, not names.
My point is that I would leave Sam Raimi alone for Multiverse of Madness. I'm pretty sure it's not his fault that movie is that way. It's my point.
There could be outside influences and people in charge of it.
Yeah. What I'll say is Taika is not suited to the MCU anymore, and it's not even necessarily his fault. It probably fully is actually, because it does look like this was just what he wanted to do, but the MCU has fallen off a cliff, and what it's making directors do now is like hideous. And so I'm not even sure how much of it is his fault exactly, but I know his style can work. It's just like I fully recommend Jojo Rabbit to basically everybody, and it's the same ideas. It's taking drama and comedy and mixing them quite well. It's taking some really dark content and trying to make jokes out of it. But the balance is much more expertly reached than in this.
The balance is better, and contextually it makes more sense because Jojo Rabbit's told from the point of view of a small child, and it's like, okay, well, that's how he rationalizes this insane world of like genocide and war and everything. Like, okay, it kind of makes sense there. You don't really have
the Hitler one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, in the context of the film, it all makes perfect sense. But like, you don't have that rationalization here because this is not told from the point of view of a child. It's a straight up, you know, adventure movie from the point of view of adults, theoretically, anyway.
Acting like children.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So like that whole rationale for how you tell your story doesn't work in Thor. I think the only reason it worked in Ragnarok was one, you know, he judged it better in terms of like the balance between drama and comedy, and also everyone was just so fucking happy to get a half decent Thor movie after the just few shit ones.
I think the jokes had more time spent on them in that. I don't know how else to say it. Like, because some of the quote unquote jokes of this, I agree with what Bruce said. It's like some of these I can't even classify them as jokes. I don't even know if they are jokes. They're just people.
No, they were just words. Yeah, it was just words that.
Meanwhile,
meanderings. They didn't even.
For example, when the fucking Hulk like yeets Thor, and then it cuts over to Loki, and he goes, "Yes, that's how it feels." I was just like, "Hey, that's pretty fun." There's a lot of stuff like that in Ragnarok where they rely on, you know, characters to make the jokes, because that might not be funny at all to someone who doesn't know that Loki had the exact same thing happen to him. Like, and that was a funny moment back in Avengers when he says, "I'm a god, you dull creature. I will not be bullied by," and then he just goes,
"Beauty god."
Yeah.
What goes into the background? What goes into the background of jokes and builds up jokes is really interesting, but there's one theory which you have to have, I can't remember what the list is, but it's like 5 things and you need 2 of them to be funny, 3 of them to be absolutely an amazing joke. And so with that, one of them is like recognizability, another one is absurdity. And all you've got in this is absurdity. There's no other level to it. It's just, this is weird. And that's not a joke. Now, if something's weird, like he hits Thor, and that also takes you back to a previous moment, and it's absurd, now it's a joke because there's 2 things. And I think that's the part of it. I wouldn't classify basically anything in this as a joke. That tattoo, there's nothing funny about that joke. It's not referencing anything. It's not trying to take the mick out of anything. It's just trying to be, this is a weird thing to have on his back.
Well, dude,
it's referencing Loki's dead, but it doesn't make any sense in the context.
Yeah, it's one-dimensional.
Of how Loki died and the context to which Loki died. But Loki, the TV series, didn't make a fucking lick of sense, so why bother with anything anymore?
That's the thing. If you said to Taika, like, give me, you know, what of the 5 boxes does it tick? And he says, well, absurdity. And you go, okay, well, that's one. What about, like, maybe reference? What is that? And he goes, well, Loki did die. And you're like, okay, but why is that funny? And he's like, well, he died. And you just sit there like, is this anti-humor? Like, what's happening? Because I've seen some people say I fucking hate Taika Waititi and I'm never going to watch Jojo Rabbit. And it's like, dude, if you watched Prometheus and then Alien Covenant and you said, I ain't ever watching anything Ridley Scott makes, I'd be like, well, you probably should check out Blade Runner and Alien. Like, Gladiator. Like, you know, we have to take the good with the bad. We don't want to just brush someone into the trash. Like the second they make this is probably his worst film. I'll say that I've seen from Taika Waititi. I don't think I've seen something worse from him.
Yeah. So there you have it, everyone. For Love and Thunder, it's Taika Waititi's worst movie, and generally it's a bit shit.
I was pretty baffled when I finished it. And did I say this before we went live? The friend I went with, I think it was before we went live. The friend I went with, he's used to, he doesn't give a fuck about the MCU, and he never has. He's always watched the films for my benefit, basically, because I like having company. And I was like, oh, you know, I'll pay for the ticket if you just come with me and we can talk about it afterwards. So he's always just watching them as just fascinating, weird things that happen in life because he's quite into film. He fucking doesn't like the MCU, which is totally fair, especially at this point. And what happens usually, and this is spanning across all of the phases, we see the movie, the credits would start, and he would get up, and he would notice that I'm just sitting down. So he'd just be like, oh, fuck, right, yeah, we got to wait for the other scenes. And I was like, if you want to go to the toilet, go ahead. But just, I just want to see what baits they might have or what references, Once upon a time, I thought that actually mattered. But this movie, it hits the opening credits, and he looks over at me, and I just get up, and he's like, wait, where are you going? And I was like, I'm out. I don't fucking care. Let's just
That's
go.
exactly what I do with Doctor Strange. He's bump up, out. I don't care anymore.
I used to because I think even with Doctor Strange when I was in the cinema, I was like, I'll wait because it's going to be information. With this one, I was like, you guys can tell me. You guys can fucking tell me. I just can't. I want to get out of here. I can't deal with this. This was so bad.
Yeah.
The worst element for me.
Sorry, go on. You go.
The worst element for me that something can have is I can handle something that is just bad and offensively awful, like Kenobi. It's terribly written, than something that bores me. If something bores me, my brain switches off. I can't concentrate, and I find that to be the worst thing. And that's why, for me, Halo was worse than Kenobi because it was boring, not just awful. And that's my only emotion coming out of this is I spent the last however long it was bored off my face.
It was tough to get through. It really was.
Yeah. There was nothing to get you through the movie. There was barely any plot. There was barely any action, and there was not. And so, if you're left with comedy, I didn't find it funny. I didn't think it was comedy at all. So I was just left with sort of a gaping chasm of a movie that didn't really do anything except exist.
Well, you guys were saying that opening scene. I was like, all right, film. I'll give you a chance to see what you're up to with this. And you get stuff like, how did Jane become Thor? You're like, all right, I'll give you a chance. Tell me what it was. But I remember it was the stupid fucking, like I said, SNL level shit where they're in the community center or whatever, and they're having their talk and they're doing their jokes back and forth about words. I remember that was the point where I was just like, oh god, I could really go for the credits right now. Like that would just be great if they could pop up. I'm so bored. I'm so done.
When it was all over and then Korg started speaking again in his narration, I can't believe this is still going. Just end it there. We didn't need you again.
What I mean, Taika Waititi just can't stop, and it's it's an opportunity to get more of me into this film. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, his narcissism just drips. But even the first, I did actually just watch one post credit, and then I got up and left.
I couldn't even.
I just knew about the Jane Thor one, and it's up on YouTube anyway, so I just watched it when I got home. But the first post credit was Zeus is alive.
Oh, we didn't even tell everybody this. So people haven't seen this film. Thor kills Zeus at one point, quote unquote. He fires a lightning bolt back at him through his heart, and he just falls over. And so we're led to believe he's dead. He even says, "You killed Zeus," halfway through the film. Go ahead, Az. What is this after credit scene?
Well, the after credits scene is he's just lying there, dying, not dying, seems to be speaking fine, and they set up Thor's son to go after. Sorry, set up Zeus's son to Hercules to go after Thor, and I'm just like, I don't. That's why I got up and left. I was just like, I don't care. This is no interest. This doesn't interest me in the slightest for where Thor's going to go next. If it's going to go anywhere next.
I can't see Hemsworth doing another one. I think he's going to be fucking...
I can see him...
I thought you said he'd do Thor forever. Dude, he did Ghostbusters 2016. He does not mind. He'll do anything.
I think he likes Taika as well. I think he likes working with Taika.
I think you're right. I think what we're dealing with here is the whole cast of Ghostbusters 2016 would have made 10,000 of those if people actually bought them. People are buying this. And so they will continue to make them.
I think this is going to do well. I think this is going to have a very good opening weekend. I think it's going to have a good opening week. I'm going to be interesting to see what the drop-off is on week 2.
I mean, I want it to do well, though. Does that not matter to you? I don't want it to do well. Shouldn't that matter?
I don't want it to do well, not because I'm a spiteful twat, but I don't want it to do well just so it hopefully wakes some people up. But
well, let me tell you why I don't want it to do well. I think
it is going to do well, though. I do think it's going to do well.
I want to believe that people see a difference in this shit. I want to believe that.
That's the hope.
I want to believe that when the vast majority of people watch this film, they go, well, that wasn't very good. That wasn't even that funny.
Well, we talked about this already, where it's like when we watched Ragnarok, the audience were genuinely laughing and reacting to the jokes and stuff. Like they were engaged with it. When they were watching this, nobody even cracked a smile. Like it was just silence throughout the movie theater, and that's the difference. And if that is an indication of just the amount of enjoyment people are getting out of it, they're not going to go and see it again. They're not going to tell their friends about it. Like that's got to have some kind of impact.
Well, that's why I think that's why I want to see the drop off in week 2, because I think it's going to have a good week, but this week is also going to spread the word that this is not very good at all. So week 2, I'm hoping is going to go.
The slight problem is that there's not much competition.
No, but Top Gun's still
that's
still
still going to be playing like next year.
Minions is doing well.
Yeah. But I mean, Top Gun's pretty much spent now. Minions, well, it's got an audience, I suppose, but it's a real kid family movie. This is more general audience. It doesn't have that much competition initially.
I can guarantee you, I don't like particularly watch or like those type of Pixar shit fucking things. Do nothing for me. I guarantee you, I would laugh more. That Minions would get a giggle out of me at the very least. Than this Thor movie, which I just was looking like a bulldog looking piss off a thistle watching this. I was just like,
there was just so many bad jokes. And so many easy jokes that it just kills your mood because you're just like, whoa. It's like watching stand up where they have like 10 duds in a row. So that even if a mid joke pops up, you're like, okay, that was all right. But
at least in stand up, like most comedians, they've got the sense to know that if like a joke doesn't land, you move on to the next one really quick.
Yeah, and they test the material.
Like, we're going to keep trying to sell it. Like we're just going to one joke.
This has gone through editors. This has gone through pre-screenings. This has gone through test screenings. It's gone through a lot to get to this. And I just can't believe that anyone didn't say, Jesus fucking Christ, these jokes are terrible.
Yeah, but this is the best stuff. It was a 4-hour movie that got cut down to this. So imagine the stuff that he removed.
No,
this has no place in the movie.
Oh, God, yeah. I don't
want to imagine the shit which didn't make it.
I do wonder if it's just a case of people don't dare say no to him, because Hemsworth said that he kept suggesting things to me and I just said yes. It's like there was no...
That's not Hemsworth's responsibility. It's the director's responsibility.
Yeah.
But I think somebody needs to sit over a director and go, look, you think this is good? Like, one of the issues with creatives is they will just always like their own things. Someone needs to say,
that's Feige.
You need to be restrained.
He's not doing it. He's not doing it. He don't care.
Yeah, Feige's trying to balance like a dozen movies and about 50 TV shows all getting made simultaneously. Like, yeah, he's not going to give a fuck. As long as the film draws money, that's all he's going to care about ultimately.
I bet you Feige hasn't even fucking seen this movie.
Probably not. No. Multiverse of Madness had this aspect, but I think this is the most I've ever seen an MCU movie almost be like, I know I'm shit, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do about it, bitches?
Yeah, you're going to watch it anyway. That's actually a question. What is everyone's pick for the worst movie in the MCU currently? Obviously, we consider this. I'll just go first, get mine out of the way. It's Multiverse of Madness. I don't think it's ever going to be beaten, and I could rationalize it to you, but I'd rather not spend another 3 hours talking about a movie. So, who's next?
In terms of like the one that I got the least amount of enjoyment out of.
Whatever metric you want, really, but for worst,
I'll go with the Eternals then, because that just made me feel nothing. It was just bland, boring, directionless garbage from start to finish.
Well, I would agree, but Salma Hayek's tits saved the day. So I would actually say Black Widow.
That's a fair choice.
That is a fucking abortion of a movie.
See, for me, it's whatever bored me the most. And I've not seen all the movies. Like, I've not seen Ant-Man. I've not seen The Eternals. Because it's not stuff I was doing for YouTube videos, which is like the only reason I ever saw this movie in the first place. And so out of the ones that I only chose the characters that I liked. And I think this is worse than Multiverse of Madness, purely because of how bored I was the entire movie, and I can't handle that.
So out of curiosity,
I need to be doing something.
If we remove that as a modifier, because I assume you
Outlook
go by more than, there's probably a couple things involved. Like, what would it be? What would be a pick then if you remove what made you most bored?
Then it might be Multiverse of Madness. Multiverse of Madness got me because I actually liked the start of it. I liked it as it was a Doctor Strange movie, which is why I went. And then everything else about all the other characters I didn't like.
Oh, just give me like 10 minutes and I'll ruin the beginning for you as well if you want.
I like you take pride in that. It's like I could destroy this movie for you.
Well, it seems like
everything you love.
You seem to respect things making sense, and like it was. I think I said to Drinker when I first talked about Multiverse of Madness, I was fucking done after the first like 2 minutes. I was already pissed off because of how much wasn't making sense. So, like that opening action scene with Defender Strange, I was already pissed off. And when I found out he had a sling ring, I actually lost my shit.
I think there's different ways of watching a movie. That I watched that movie to just watch it, or not to go out and like criticize it or see how much it made sense. I went to see basically Doctor Strange attack things and use magic and look cool.
Fucking wish he would use his magic. Motherfucker summoning cat heads. What's wrong with you? I hate that movie. It's so bad. Someone said, like, oh, it sounds like this movie's making you really mad, Bull. Are you going to make a video on it? It's like, if I was going to make a video on a fucking MCU movie right now, it would be Multiverse of Madness.
Hey, you got so mad. You made a video on Black Widow. 4 fucking hour video on Black Widow.
I did. If anyone wants to know why that movie is one of the worst things that was ever shat out by the MCU,
I think,
and you've got 4 hours spit.
That's why I invested 4 hours in watching it as well. So yes.
Should we lighten the tone a little bit and talk about something halfway decent with Stranger Things?
I'm gonna have to bounce then.
Yeah,
and also got my brother coming tomorrow, so I'm gonna have to bounce anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been wonderful shitting all over Thor Love And Thunder with you.
Always a pleasure, as
yeah, it's more entertainment here than in the movie.
Absolutely. It's so nice to exercise those demons as well, so I can go to bed and be clear of mind as best possible. But thanks for having me on, dude. Always a privilege to be on, and thanks Morley and Disprove for it as well. And chit chat.
Thanks, buddy. I'm glad I could bully you into watching this movie.
Yeah. You're killing me, man. You're fucking killing me.
I made you play Last of Us 2 all the way through.
I know.
That was cruel, I will say.
Let me just, as a drinker, I've watched the cutscenes. I know what the story is. No, I need you to experience the game.
Yeah. Started getting messages from you on the day of our stream. It's like, I'm at this point, like, how fucking longer do I have to go?
And I finished it, 45 minutes before the stream.
Yeah, you were a broken man on that stream. You really were.
That was bad. Okay, you have a lovely time talking Stranger Things, and I'll see you all soon, guys.
All right, cheers. Thank you. Yeah, so like, have you watched Stranger Things season 4?
Yes, I have. I did see all of them. I know when you were talking about season 3 before, it's like I didn't respond because I thought you were talking to us, but I have seen them all.
Oh, okay, cool.
My thing was though, I got to the because I started watching Terminal List before I went back and watched Stranger Things, and all I could think from Stranger Things was that I want to be watching Terminal List instead. So it was good, but I think out of the two, I definitely prefer the Terminal List.
I've just started Terminal List. I'm on episode 2 at the moment, and I like it so far. Like the acting's a little bit okay, and the dialogue's a bit on the nose, but it's got potential.
It gets better as it goes on.
Okay.
Is Terminal List on Netflix or no?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon.
Oh, okay.
It's like an Amazon original or something.
I was going to say, I'm not sure where Disbrew stands, but like I loved season 4, but I have a laundry list of complaints. Like, this is the thing, it appeals to me, is why I like it so much. I'm very biased in favor of it, but like, man, I still would say there's a lot wrong with it. But in the context of this conversation, I assume we may just bring up some comparisons. At least I wanted to, regarding music was one of them. But direct the conversation however you like.
I mean, I will say I'm getting a little bit sick of Kate Bush now. Like after this season,
that was inevitable. Yeah,
I can that song so many times before I'm just like, okay, I'm fucking done with running up that hill now.
I'm actually going to go as far as saying I didn't quite appreciate them using it again for the climactic sort of destruction of Vecna when I felt it was almost Max's song after episode 4 and that it should be embedded within that scene as opposed to used again when epic things are happening.
Yeah. I wish they'd had also, I know I'm jumping around here, I wish they'd had the balls to just kill Max off instead of this.
Fucking yes. That was a huge mistake, keeping her alive. That's because the Duffer Brothers don't have balls, unfortunately. They haven't for the entire time they played Stranger Things.
Who I liked way more than Max. I wish he'd survived and she hadn't. I get why he had to die, but yeah.
Dude, they may as well have said, we're killing him as soon as they introduced him. They flag his death like 10 times in his arc. It's honestly a little bit annoying. It's the one criticism I'd have mainly for his arc is that it's so telegraphed. Like, they want you to understand it perfectly. It's like, I get it.
I didn't even like his, like, it's when you killed him off and he's like really proud at the end. Well, I didn't run away this time. And I'm like, yeah, but you should have done. Running, like, that would have achieved the same goal and you would have survived. It's stuff like that where I'm like, they try and make, no, he's really learned this time. And like, what, now you're doing a stupid thing. It may have been stupid to run away before, but this time, run away.
Yeah. What he should have done is directly sacrificed himself to save another character. It shouldn't have just been like, oh, I'm going to run away and make a stand, sorry, to buy a bit more time for something that I don't even know what's going on right now.
To me, that was the Kenobi scene all over again, where it's like, you should run from Reva because she's coming to go and get Luke. And like, no, we need to stand our ground. And like, no, run away as an Inquisitor's coming after you.
So this is the thing about Stranger Things Season 4 compared to something like what we just saw. I would be like, there are tweaks I would like to make, but there's like 1,000 of them for Stranger Things Season 4 to make it all work, I think, a lot better versus something like Love and Thunder where I'm just like, can we scrap it and work again from the get-go? Yeah. We might keep bits of gore or whatever, but like, fuck me, we need to remove a lot of this. What you guys are talking about, I actually pretty much completely agree. And I think they nearly had it and then he screwed it up. When he's running from the bats, right? It's not him running away from them, it's him distracting them. So it's not even quite the same thing as what the Duffer Brothers think they're doing. And they have this moment that I kind of hate. He gets knocked off the bike, gets up, starts running, and then stops and thinks and has a fucking flashback to him thinking about how he runs. And it's like, no, you shouldn't have had that at all. He should have been knocked off the bike, and then he's attacked, and he starts fighting immediately because it's over. He's caught. Instead, you present that he can still run away. It's like, well, if he can still run away, he should run away, as you guys have been over. So I think it just needs the smallest of tweaks, and we'd be fine. But this is the problem. The Duffer Brothers fuck themselves over quite a lot in the way that they write Stranger Things. It's frustrating, because I really actually, like, personally, I adored Eddie's contributions to this season. He was always the one I was the most interested in seeing. I felt like the guy who played him, top-notch charisma, bounced off all the different actors. And
I was gonna ask you this actually. Like, how much of it do you think is down to how the character's written, and how much of it is just down to the great performance that the actor gives?
I would go as far as saying it's both significant components, to the point where I'm tempted. I can't fucking talk about anything I want to make, because then everyone will hold me to it forever until I'm dead. But like, I would like to make a video going over Eddie's characterization, because I think it's fucking fantastic. His 2 opening scenes in episode 1, they tell you basically everything about him, and there's about 3 or 4 dimensions. You've got the angle that he's aggressive, confident, and unwilling to give up D&D. He's like the boss of it, to the point where he's almost a bit threatening. They even talk about him when they're about to meet up with him, like, oh shit, he's angry today. So you just get this angle that's how he presents himself with D&D. The reality is, as he says later on, he's only really a hero in D&D. The personality he has when controlling it as a DM, or when he's talking about it, or when he's defending it from people who think it's like, nerdy and stupid, is this strong, assertive guy. But he's fucking terrified on the inside when it comes to anything actually threatening, anything that's real compared to the fiction of the game. So it's like, alrighty, that's pretty interesting. Then we find out that he tries to grab wayward sheep from the world who are interested in stuff like D&D, but can't find people to, do it with. I was like, that's already made me like him a hell of a lot more. Because fucking nerds in school, especially back in the 80s, they were just picked on. While he's like, it makes no fucking sense that nerds are picked on for the stuff they like as fantasy. When you got the guys over there throwing balls in nets, you got the ones over there who are like, oh, they're into science. Is that cool? I was just like, oh, this guy's kind of fun. He's pointing out that, like, it's dumb that they're on the lowest rung of the social ladder when this is pretty arbitrary. It's like, you guys like D&D, therefore you're the losers. and then people calling him a freak, and him reading out the paper that the world sees a connection between satanic worship, D&D, and murders potentially, which did happen, and it's bullshit. And he's like making fun of it. So it's like, in a matter of what, like 2 minutes, we've already got so much to work with. And you combo that with his scene with Chrissy, where he's like an actual pretty caring and invested person who's trying to look after a girl who's clearly out of her own league, trying to buy drugs. And he like sort of holds her hand with it and even offers like, we don't have to do this. He gives her a discount. And he does some fun like sort of physical acting with how he's trying to get across how he feels. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on this season, but their writing is way better, to the point where I'm invested in this guy. And then you got, like I said, Joseph Quinn, I think is his name. He's done a fantastic job portraying it, because Eddie is like, I think 90% of people's pick for top character for this season.
Yeah, I think so. He's the one guy, like, you just pay attention to him every scene that he's in. He's fun, he's energetic, he's, his arc that he has this season, I kind of tried to liken it to Hudson from Aliens, in that he's this wannabe badass when he's in his element, but like the moment things go south, he kind of collapses, and he's unmasked as a bit of a coward, but then he ultimately is a good person underneath and redeems himself in the end and kind of goes out in this blaze of glory. So like kind of a nice, neat character arc for him that's understandable. So yeah, I like that. And the actor who portrays him just gives a great performance. Like, just really, like, even like when he's interacting with with Dustin, normally like it's Dustin and Steve, they've got the really good sort of relationship, but like there's real moments of like big brotherliness between the two of them, and I think that's great. Like, it just feels really natural, and he plays off it really well. So yeah, all those things combined just makes for a great character.
Yeah, I think they've done that deliberately to push him to the forefront, because they knew they were going to kill him from the start, obviously. So I think you're supposed to think of this as a guy that you're really attached to. And it's a very odd tactic to do that, because a lot of things, if they know they're going to kill off a character, they kind of keep them in the background. They're the red shirts that just get brought in to be slaughtered. Whereas this, if anything, he kind of drowned out some of the main characters, who I think they realize they either can't or don't want to get rid of them. So they've got a bit of the plot armor, whereas... So now if they actually want to do something like that, have an emotional death of some sort, they almost have to bring in somebody new.
I go as far as saying it's pathetic at this point how much they will not kill anybody who's a mainstay.
I know, and this is one of the big problems that I still kind of picked on in my review. Is like they do suffer from cast bloat. And the result is like they try to get around it to some extent by splitting everyone off into different groups, and so each group is relatively small and they've got their own objectives. But Will and Jonathan and Mike kind of don't have much to do for most of the season, and they're in a bit of a holding pattern until it's time for them to hook up with 11 again. And theirs is like probably the least interesting of the subplots, and it's like, yeah, this is where you probably need to start killing people off just to thin the ranks a bit.
It's they've had this problem throughout, even in season 1. Because I think you mentioned it in your video, Drinker, and I completely agree. Like, Lucas has had a problem in season 1, 2, and 3. They don't know what to do with this character. They've never given him anything to work with. 4 is the first time we've actually had something for him, choosing between the popular kids and the nerdy kids. And we get an arc for that, as well as his investment in Max and their relationships. Like, he's like a full-on character. Then you go back to season 1, Mike is the one everybody typically picks for their favorite kid character. He's like the director of leading all of the charge. He's the one that cares the most about Will, seemingly, and he has a relationship with 11. Where is he in this season? It's like he's doing nothing until maybe the last couple of episodes. And the Duffer Brothers, they cannot fucking juggle this many characters. They don't know how. They put their power into like a couple of them, and then the rest suffer.
I think any writer would struggle with this many. There are just too many, and like they're all kind of similar levels of like experience and backgrounds and stuff. So like it's not like they come from radically different worlds.
Well, like Infinity War would be a sort of example of how to try and juggle it. And I think they came close. They split it into 4 main plot lines. I think they did enough for Hopper, Joyce, and Murray. That was in terms of, if we're looking at what work is done for character detail. But then most shit was done for Eddie and Max, I think, is probably, and then Lucas. So the Lenora plotline is how I refer to it. They threw that on the back burner. They just did not do anything for Will, Mike, and Jonathan. And you could be like, no, they did something. It's like, no, I don't mean nothing literally. I mean like snippets. We have pieces, little. And I don't know if you've seen it, but the Duffer Brothers have come out and said, like, Will is going to be the main character in season 5 because they realize that Will has been fucked over in this show as a character.
I think so, yeah, because obviously he wasn't even really a character in season 1. He was just an objective to try and rescue.
We barely get to know him. Yeah.
Season 2 obviously was his main arc, where it's like he's suffering the effects of the Upside Down, and like that's he's the link really between that world and ours. And that's just kind of disappeared this season. He's just like, he's not needed in the plot, so he's just kind of in the background, and it's like, yeah, they need to do something with him now.
I think the issue that I have with the subplots is, like, I can judge them on their own. Like, I think Hopper's storyline on its own is good, but when you actually think about it in the relation to the rest of the actual plot, I don't know why it's there. Because even at the end, where they try and tie it back in that he's going to help them by, attacking sort of the black gas, he's like, we need to kill this thing. Well, why? Because then it might give our boys a chance. And like, well, you don't know. They could be sitting there watching TV. You have no idea they're in a battle at that moment. So what happens if you just destroyed this? It distracted him, but they're just, watching a movie.
Yeah.
They would have been wasted.
I don't know if this is the opposite take or not, because of what you just said. So, like, I actually would have been fine if his plotline didn't have anything to do with the major plotline, and that the climax of his plotline was escaping the prison with a Demogorgon running around in it. I don't need his to somehow impact the main one. I think it's cringe that they tried to. Like, if we kill all these things, it'll help. I was like, stop. Funnily enough, my issues with the Hopper plotline are more so to do with a lot of the mechanics that make it up. Like, first of all, fucking putting him in Russia was a strange decision from the writers, but okay, I guess that's something that happened. The whole thing about
from season 3, so they carried it on.
Hitting his leg with the pickaxe or the hammer, whatever it was. I remember just thinking, like, have you not fucked your feet and ankles? Everyone asks this question, and I don't know what the show exactly wants you to think has happened.
I thought he broke his ankle so he could pull it out, like when people dislocate something.
But then I was like, well, no, because he wouldn't be able to walk on him, right? But then I was like, well, I don't know if the show cares. I don't know if that's a bad piece of writing, or I was supposed to assume something else.
Was he hitting the actual manacle around his ankle so that he could bend it slightly, and
I thought the idea was maybe that he warped it, right, so that it could slip off in particular. But then I was like, but that's still going to wreck your fucking ankle when it slams in. Because if you look at the slams, it's right next. I don't know. It's all very weird.
But it wouldn't make it bigger anyway. If it warped it, it'd still be the same size.
Yeah, you're right. That's the thing. If you warp it so that it goes longer one way, it's shorter on the other, so you're still not getting that off your foot. So I don't exactly know how it works. The other problem, of course, is he runs around in the sno with bare feet for a long time. And I know someone might be like, that's a nitpick. I'd be like, I don't know, man.
He's now broken his ankle and he's got frostbite. At some point, we're going to.
I also don't really understand the sort of local village that they go to, where you can just like wheel a helicopter out into the central square and just spend all night working on it, and nobody sees you or phones the police or anything. Nobody lives there.
Is it abandoned or something? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I genuinely think that's just their idea of Russia. That Russia's just like empty places where there's just villages all over the place and no one there. It's like when you go to Mexico, it has to be like a desert wasteland with nothing there. That's what they see Russia as.
It was a strange one, but yeah, like you guys are saying, they didn't need to tie it into the central battle against Vecna. It could have just been its own self-contained thing. I think the issue they had is like it's a real stretch to just bring Hopper back, because it really felt like at the end of the previous season he should have just died. Like that should have been it for his character, and so bringing him back is going to take quite a bit of work. And I guess this season was all about putting in that work in order to justify him being alive again. So
how I thought they were going to bring him back. I thought he was going to escape into the Upside Down and then come back, but instead he's just like, no, he survives in the base, and then he gets found by the Russians and then extradited to Russia? Is that the story?
Dude, if you sum it up, all of it, it's like he survives that, he doesn't go through the gate, he's captured by Russians, then he escapes, then he's captured again, then he escapes, and then he goes back in himself.
It's like a series of 24.
It's what I mean. It's when you broadly look at the Hopper storyline, you're like, what were they smoking? Why was this the plan? Like, you could have done all kinds of things with it. Now, I don't want to imply there's nothing of value there. I actually enjoy a lot of the things he ends up talking about regarding his daughter or his motivations, and I like the relationship between him and the god. But like, plot-wise, it's weird. The whole thing is very strange. Like, even the Russians being like, we have a Demogorgon that we're trading up. It's like, why? Like, what's
It's like the medical experimentation, but for some reason you're just like feeding him. I don't know. It's like he won't. The monster won't eat anything unless it's scared. Was essentially like it was their entertainment.
I think as well, it's the fact that they don't really have weapons that can take it down. Like guns clearly have no effect on it, so they must have known that. You'd think
How
they
did
would
they
have
capture these things?
Yeah, like you'd think they would have some kind of contingency in place. Like, okay, like fire hurts it obviously, so it's like, well, they would have flamethrowers on standby in the prison just in case one of these things gets out.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, right? The whole prison is annihilated by these things when they must have known at this point fire is one of the best deterrents of these things. Remember when he finds out there's fire in the actual fight, he's like, how the fuck, like, what is he doing? Stop him, sort of thing. Because it seems they know that fire is the weakness. I don't know why they would have done all this experimentation and not learned that fire was their weakness. But you're telling me that everyone in the entire prison couldn't, like, grab a flamethrower, no torches, not even a lighter, like, someone? You'd think a fire would start accidentally or something, but oh well, they all get killed, and then our guys get in there, and I wasn't even that happy with the action scene. First of all, Hopper holding off a demo dog by holding its face. I was like, oh,
that seems a quick way to lose your fingers. Like if you're holding
yeah. And then of course they both run, and then like Murray manages to wipe them all out with a flamethrower, and I was like, damn, dude, where was this shit in season 2? If you guys remember when they get assaulted by the demo dog army, a base filled with flamethrowers, by the way. I don't know. Seems a little inconsistent to me.
Yeah, and I don't want to give the wrong impression. Like, I enjoyed season 4. It is just it's one of the issues that the more you think about stuff, it's like, what on earth is going on? And I would like to say, I would prefer all the storylines to tie together, but there needs to be some kind of reason to do it. Like I said, I like storylines where you see the same event from different people's perspectives, but they're all tied together. Well, because and it's just at the end, it's like, well, we've got to do something. You know,
I never would have sent him to Russia. That was a weird choice, you know? Like, as a writer, it's just like, no, don't bait his death if you're not going to kill him. I'm so fucking tired of this shit. The Duffer Brothers do it all the time.
I think they should have ignored season 3.
I know, they're suffering from all these hangovers of like this ridiculous fucking setup of a massive underground Soviet base beneath a shopping mall in Western America. Like, how is any of that supposed to have ever happened?
2 teenage ice cream workers and a fucking child decide that they're going to assault it. Like, why? They never address this in the whole fucking season. Why? What is the point of you guys doing that? And they seem to do like this angle of like, it's an adventure. It's like, what the fuck are we watching? What is this?
Yeah.
Season 3 came so close to just checking me out of the show completely.
It did check me out of the show. It was Gary that dragged me back into it, and now I like it again. I was like, I'm so done. But I was like, maybe I'm not done. Because, you know, something that, like, I'm a rare hater of season 2 as well. I know that there's not that many people who do. Some people still think season 2 is okay. But something that pissed me off, and this is just indicative of Duffer Brothers writing, season 1's finale implied, at least in the moment, that Eleven had to give up her own life to kill the Demogorgon. And I remember thinking, like, man, that was a really fucking good payoff. Nice job. And then at the end of it, they're like, maybe she's not dead. It's like, okay. Like, I guess it depends on what you did with that. And I remember thinking when I finished season 1, I was like, oh, what if she's trapped in the Upside Down? And that's, like, the sort of repercussion of her doing what she did to the Demogorgon. It's like, I think that could be satisfying. Season 2 starts up, then they give you the lore. She ended up in the Upside Down. I don't know how. She just did. And you're like, okay, then what? Well, then she walked back into the real world. She just found a gate and opened it. You're like, oh. Well, then what? Then she walked to Mike's house, because that is what she would do. That is her character. And she spots a police officer saying to Mike, hey, you best tell us if 11 pops up, because whoever she's around's lives get ruined. Whenever she's in front of somebody, their lives get bad. And she sees this and she's like, oh, I can't be around Mike. I'll ruin his life. I'll just leave and live in the woods. I remember being like, what the fuck is this? Do you remember they have scenes of showing her killing squirrels and eating them? I was like, what? What are we doing? Like, and then Hopper leaves out some Eggos and she gets attracted to his shack and then she lives there for the season. I remember being like, you guys have no fucking clue what you're doing. And that became evident.
I've maintained this before that season 1 had that perfect ending where it's like that tragic fairy tale kind of Mike finally connects with this girl that he absolutely adores, and she has to sacrifice her life to stop the evil monster. It's just perfect ending. You could have finished it right there and it would have been awesome. Obviously they couldn't have done that, But like you say, if you're going to bring it back from an ending like that, it should be something pretty fucking significant, and it should take a bit of work. And it's a bit like Love and Thunder, where everything just has to be like accomplished really quickly and efficiently to then get us onto the main story. You know, just get everything back on track as quick as you can.
Several people in chat have said, "Wait, she kills and eats squirrels?" Like, yeah, I forgot to. When I rewatched it, I was like, "Holy fuck, I don't remember this."
I think that's my issue. I watched it so many years ago, I can't remember that at all. There's a huge gap between these series, so by the time the next one rolls around, and I don't know whether that's an advantage, because season 4 to me it's a lot of it is a repeat of season 1. It's the same things. There's a monster coming from the upside down. What we're going to do? Well, we're going to use magic against it. So my issue is, if you have something like Supernatural, it's like every episode is a self-contained monster and it works, and you can kind of have an overarching story for the series. I'd like something that tied this stuff a bit more together. Like, they still haven't explored the upside down, really. It's just kind of there, and people get sent to it, and then they come back.
If I can even call it their world building, it's embarrassing. And we saw this season them basically being like, no, guys, it all makes sense, trust me. And they roll out a whiteboard with all these little drawings and lines. They're like, look, Vecna was this, he was here, this happened because of this. And you're like, that doesn't make sense because of that. That doesn't make sense because you wrote this yesterday, didn't you? And they're like, no.
I mean, I even am a bit hazy on what their world building is for the Upside Down. So they're implying that like the mirror image of Hawkins that you see in the Upside Down was only created by Vecna, or by One when he went over to that.
They have a line to imply, or at least state, and I think it's from Dustin, and usually everything Dustin says turns out to be fucking true. He's the exposition character. That the Upside Down has always been there. Vecna going there, Vecna says something like, you know, he's impressed with the world. It's a world untouched by man, and then he starts to mold it to what he wants. So I think the Upside Down was always there, but 11 sent him there.
Yes,
but doesn't the lightning hitting him give him some kind of powers? That's what I
guess so. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I thought they were going to explain that, but then I was like, wait, it's the Duffer Brothers. They're just going to make everyone else explain it in forums.
It's the fact that like the objects in Hawkins in the Upside Down are kind of time locked, like 3 years previously, from like when 11 did her thing and you know, opened the portal to that dimension, which makes me assume like it's based on Vecna's memories of Hawkins when he transitioned over. So like that's the most up to date version that he has, and that's why it doesn't go any further forward.
It couldn't be his memories, right? Because like it's
maybe not his memory. I don't know, like whatever. Like
I think they just cloned
a copy into it.
Yeah,
he brought properties of his universe into that universe and just imprinted onto it.
It's a good point you bring up, because a lot of people were like, oh, so when it must have been created there and then because it's a clone of blah, blah, blah. It's like, but when we see him first go into it, it's just this like dark Mordor-like land with no houses, no nothing. So it's like, so when did Hawkins, but the Upside Down, arrive? Was that him? Did Vecna do that? And why did he do that if he did that? And I thought they were going to give us more information on this, but they really didn't.
Yeah, if anything, it would have made sense if there was like a greater intelligence of that world that decided to hit him with lightning, thought he would be useful for it to get back to our world or something. And then it's like, no, he's responsible for all of it. I'm like, what?
If you remember, Dustin said he's the 5-star general, and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. But then Vecna says, no, I came to the world. The Mind Flayer was just this dude that was chilling out, and I've controlled him into doing what I want. I was controlling the Mind Flayer. It's like, oh, okay.
This is full on like Blofeld from Spectre kind of
exactly. Yes,
me, James, the whole time, the architect of your pain.
Which again, I rewatched seasons 2 and 3 relatively recently. That is horseshit. The Mind Flayer and Vecna have nothing to do with each other when it was back then. This is because he's a big retcon. By the way, I like him. I like Vecna, but he's still a retcon. In season 2 and 3, they imply the Mind Flayer has a very specific plan, and that plan is to kill 11, and it nearly does in season 3. Vecna's plan is to kill all of 11's friends and then kill her. And so it's just like, wait, I guess your plan changed up in the middle there. And they say we're building something for you specifically, and it turns out it's the big flesh Mind Flayer at the end of season 3. But I think they're trying to contextualize that now as being like, no, it was Vecna all along trying to open those 4 portals with those people, with, you know, and it's just like,
I mean, it makes sense because you want an antagonist that can actually communicate.
Exactly. Dude, Vecna should have been sort of foreshadowed and referenced long ago, but they've only come up with him as recently as now, which, by the way, is how they've done a lot of this, and I don't I hesitate to appreciate a lot of it, right? I really like Max's character writing, but as somebody in chat mentioned when I brought this up on Nerdrotic stream, and then I actually saw it when I rewatched season 3, they fucking changed their minds. When Billy dies, we have a 3 months later thing, and Max is as happy as you could ever see her. She's chilling out with all her friends, she's singing, she's still dating Lucas, and I'm like, doesn't seem like you have any plans to make her depressed or internalizing her guilt over what happened with Billy yet. And someone could say, like, that doesn't mean it's not there. Like, that's true, but they had no fucking plans to do so. They only did when they wrote season 4 because they didn't plan any of this out. And they've said publicly, no, we planned out seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right before we even made season 1. And I'm like, no fucking way you did that. No fucking way at all.
I honestly think that they recognized that Max was not being well received because, like, the previous seasons, she does not come across as a particularly likable character. Like, I have said before, I found her pretty annoying. Like, her only arc or her only character trait is that she's kind of snarky and irritable with people. And, like, it's contextualized a little bit in season 3 where it's like, well, her brother's kind of like an abusive asshole towards her. But by that point, the damage is kind of done with her. And yeah, like you say, she kind of moves on from all of that. And then they try to reframe it as like, well, she's racked with guilt because we need to set her up as more sympathetic. And that's like the opening for Vecna to like take advantage of her mind and you know,
but that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Like, I would have liked it had they actually shown it had a huge effect on her in season 3. And then you could even have season 3 ending with Lucas being like, why... like, you know, come out with us to go here or do this, do that. She's not just a little bit to be like, this has clearly done something to her. And then season 3, we have the jump. She's ditched Lucas. She's not hanging out with people. She's seeing a counselor. It's like, that's all reasonable as a result of what we saw. But they hadn't planned for that. I believe that they write this shit well after each one is even done and seen by the public. They said they haven't started writing season 5 until August. So... like, they're gonna, and this is what fucking worries me, man. Every single thread that talks about this goddamn series, the first and top comment is, you better bring Eddie back. And it's like, you don't bring Eddie back. And the problem is the Duffer Brothers might just capitulate because he is super popular after what happened.
Essentially what they did with Hopper. There was no way Hopper was meant to be back. And he was literally just brought back because people liked him.
Yeah. But the thing is,
like they were going for a kill, but then they didn't.
I would just love to see them do something really bold, like fucking kill Dustin or something, or Steve.
Dude, kill 11. Prove to me you have testicles. Kill 11.
One of the advantages of a sort of really massive cast is that you can kill them off because you've got so many other characters. Exactly, and if you do that each series, you can build up new characters that may survive and may not, rather than always killing off the guy that's brought in specifically for this season.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite BBC programs was Spooks. And that was because anyone could die in Spooks. It didn't matter how long they'd been in. The moment a gun was pointed to someone, they could die. And even the cast said that when they were given a script, they flicked to the end to see if they survived that episode because they had no idea. And
it's
nobody does that anymore.
To create tension, because it's like, there's nothing worse than like putting your characters in danger and knowing that they've got plot armor, and it's like, they'll be fine. You don't worry about it. It's like, well, what's the point in doing it then?
I saw
for 11, they've had like she bleeds whenever she does sort of the psychic stuff, which is meant you would think would eventually build up into some kind of lasting damage, and it's like no, it's just like a nosebleed. It's fine.
Yeah, dude, this was almost the ridiculous scene in season 3 was like when she's doing loads of like that sort of psychic. The astral projection where she's searching for something and she's like wiping her nose while doing it, and there's a fucking pile of tissues next to her,
like 50. It's almost it's almost like a joke. Like the show is like, isn't it funny? Every time she does this, she has to wipe her nose, and it's just like, is that not doing anything to her brain?
Like show a cost to it. Like show her like we can buy it or something, and she has to take time to recover, and then it's not just this infinite resource that she can always tap into to solve every problem.
I don't know if that's what they were going for at the end of season 3, where they just, because I don't know if you guys remember, but her powers just stop working. She's got like a weird worm in her leg. She pulls it out with her power and throws it away, and then she tries to use her power again after that scene, and it's gone. And then at the end, Mike is like, "I'm sure your power is going to come back," but then obviously it doesn't by the time we hit season 4. I have no idea what their idea was with that. I don't know what they were trying to tell me. Like, she lost her power because she lost her power.
Yeah, it would make more sense if she exerted herself in some massive effort to defeat the bad guy, and then her powers were gone. It's like, well, she just burned out with it, and it's like, okay, fine. There's a reason for that then. But yeah,
because they realized they have no way of fighting the main bad guy without her, because she's the only one on that level. So if you get rid of her, what is anyone else going to do? That world would just be over.
So I had a lot of disappointments with this season, but that was my biggest one, where you have Steve, I think it's episode 2 or 3, they're talking to Eddie and they're explaining how everything has worked in the past few seasons. And he gets a little bit confused. He's like, how are you fucking beating these things? And then he goes, well, we had a girl on our team. She had superpowers. She usually takes care of it. And I was like, so you're highlighting this season that you can't rely on her and you're actually going to do something different this time. And then she beats the bad guy by screaming at him and lifting her arm.
Yep.
After that doesn't work, because she gets a pep talk from Mike saying, I love you, which I was just like, God damn it, guys. Every fucking time you fight a big monster, she puts up her arm and screams and bleeds from the nose and wins. And I swear to God, they're going to do that probably in season 5, because I don't know what other card they're going to pull. It's going to at least involve her going, and we'll all wonder, is it going to kill her this time, like it nearly did several times up to this point? It's like, you got to learn how to do something else.
I just remember in season 1 where like they go out to the cabin and they lay a trap for the Demigorgon, and like Nancy and Steve fucking take it on, and they have superpowers. They've just got like a baseball bat with nails in it, and like they actually, they hold their ground against it for a while. That's really fucking cool, because it's like they could die at any time, and this thing's really dangerous against them.
Well, that's the problem with threats, though. If you keep leveling up the threats, you have to level up everyone else. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with one person that has to do everything. And they had the perfect way. Like, she's nowhere near them. There's literally no way she could ever interfere with what they're doing. She can't save them. And they could have even had her in the next series being like, struggling with the fact that she wasn't there to protect them. And if someone died, then it would have been her fault. Like survivor's guilt, just because she feels like she should have been there to save them. And instead, it's like, no, she just like magicked away over there now from the other side because she was.
Mike
in a bath.
said, "I love you," and that was enough to overpower Vecna at the time.
I hate the CW stuff of telling people they can believe in themselves and suddenly they can do anything. That's my pet peeve of so much writing nowadays.
There was an idea inside season 4 that I was like, okay, I think I can see it. And it was that Vecna draws his power from rage, anger, frustration, memories of hate, basically, and that's the advice he gives her. The way she beats him when she's young is that she starts thinking about rage-filled memories, but then the one she does remember is love, like a fundamental love from her mum, and that overpowers hate. That's what they're going for. It's like, okay, but like, I don't know, just being, no, she learns this, and then she has Mike telling her, I love you, 11, is like enough to overpower Vecna right now, who to me, I thought he was, when she first turns up in Max's head in the snowball area, and she like picks Vecna up and throws him across the room, and then is like, right, let's go. I was like, well, he's not dead. I don't know why you would even treat this like you got to do a lot more than that to him. And then he just like picks her up, and he's winning. And I remember thinking like, fuck me, I don't even know, what am I supposed to think is happening here? Like, it could be either of you. I don't know how any of this works. It's like when Harry Potter and Voldemort are firing the thing at each other. I'm like, I don't know who's going to win this. Same for when Rey is firing her lightning and Palpatine's firing his. It's like, I know Rey's going to win, but at the same time, I don't know why either of you would win. I don't know.
Yeah, like what's the actual underpinning behind it that's like making one person do better than the other? It's like, it's just, they're just shouting and one's being stronger temporarily. It's like, that's all you got.
When you put Iron Man against Captain America, I'm going to be looking out for the blood loss on Captain America and getting tired, and then the parts of armor chipping off Iron Man until he runs out of them. Like, I get telegraphing, and I know what weapons they have. But when you have, like, incredible, powerful, magical people fight each other, same with Doctor Strange versus Wanda. It's just like, shouldn't this fight be over in a second? Both of you can kill each other instantly if one of you used your portal and if the other one turned you into spaghetti. But no, it never goes that way. I'm just like, what's happening?
When we're talking about characters as well, I have to ask as well, what did you think of Argyle?
Drinky, you complimented him in your video and it upset me.
I mean, I'm sure my compliment was pretty backhanded, where it's like he's funny in really small doses, but like I'm glad they didn't try to do too much with him. I think in retrospect, I wish they'd done a bit less with him.
There's too much Argyle. Oh god, the joke is getting old as soon as you meet him. Like, lol, he's high. It's like, yeah, I get it. I know he's high.
I love how
Jonathan's high.
That's basically Jonathan's stick now as well. Whereas, like, yeah, he's kind of a stoner too. Like, that's it. That's all I got with Jonathan.
I don't think it's really possible to do that story well, because it's the same in every movie. It's the same stereotype. The only one I think that did it to a good effect would be Cabin in the Woods, where it actually played into the story that he was high, so he was using his own stash, and that meant that he wasn't affected by what they were doing to him. Whereas in this, it's just like, he's cool and then high, and that's good. And I'm like, what? His entire character, like, people like him, I don't know why they're in the because he doesn't contribute anything.
Well, so a friend of mine actually said he hated a lot of Stranger Things season 4, and he said his reason was really one-dimensional characters. And for a moment, I was like, "What, are you crazy?" Because I was thinking about Eddie and Max and how much is going on with them and stuff. And then I took a second, and I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, Jason, he's super one-dimensional. The bully girl, super one-dimensional. Argyle, super one-dimensional. Fucking Mike, Will, and Jonathan may as well be one-dimensional. There's not much going on with them." I seriously just think it's Duffer Brothers have trouble relegating stuff to the point where they're aware of it, and they're like, "Don't worry, will have character next season." It's like,
but they could cut down the cast and merge a few of the characters so they aren't one-dimensional. They got more traits. Yeah,
I mean, Jonathan this season.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't have any impact because no one cares about him now either. Like, everyone's just rooting for Nancy and Steve to get back together.
If you remember season 3, Jonathan is just Nancy's boyfriend in it, and he just exists to say, "You shouldn't do that. I think you're wrong about this. Oh, you were right about this." Whoa. That's like his whole role. He's been destroyed, like, gradually. I didn't even like him that much, but, like, I agree with everyone saying that they've lost interest in writing for him now.
Yeah.
I mean, even if then it wouldn't make much of an impact, I think that's even more of a reason to just kill him off. It's just call the cast
cut
to
the
a place.
fat, right? Like,
yeah. And then you can move forward in the future. And it would actually at least add weight, because even if no one cares about them, you know that these people can die. And I think at this point, the only reason it's too late now, it's the last season. So you kind of expect people to die in the last season, because it's not that they're going to make any more.
Yeah, season 5 is the only season where I don't know exactly who's going to die. But this season, like, me and friends that were watching it, we were like, pick one character that you think is going to die and one character you think will definitely live. Our picks for who was going to live, all of us were correct. We had different ones. Our reasoning was just like, they'd never killed this person. They'd never killed this person. Who's going to die? Basically, everyone was like, so Jason's guaranteed dead, and then Eddie is pretty much guaranteed dead. And, both were right. And it's just, like, kind of annoying. And you'd be like, hey, that's not bad. Just because you predict that a character's going to die doesn't make it bad. And it's just like, no, it's just that the Duffer Brothers have, like, no level of subversion going on. They tell you everything that's going to happen pretty early on, and they're not subtle about it. Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I was watching season 2, and Newbie, Bob Newbie, played by Sean Astin, after just a couple of scenes of him being the perfect person ever, I was like, so he's dead. Like, they're building up to make you like him a whole lot, because he's just going to get fucking killed. And then they do the same thing in season 3 with the Russian guy. They make him like this scientist who's been tortured his whole life in terms of doing work for the Russian. But he starts experiencing American culture, really enjoys it, defects, and he's working hard and he's having fun. And then he gets executed by the Terminator sort of reference guy. And it's like, oh, you did that again, because as we've been over, they don't have the balls to kill main characters, but they want you to feel when someone dies. And so they're like this person and we'll kill them. And I've seen people compliment them for this. It's like, isn't that evidence that they're doing really well, that they can make you like someone before killing them that quickly? And it's like, yeah, but it comes at the cost of them writing anything reasonable in terms of repercussions for their main characters, as well as characterizing their main characters. Sometimes they just forget.
I'm not sure that Eddie being the most liked character from season 4 is a good thing. It's like, well, can they do this? Yes. But why haven't they done that for the main cast as well? Because I wouldn't really care if most of the main cast went.
I completely
they're just
agree
kind of character plot points. Whereas Eddie was a full person on his own. It's like, so if you can do that, why aren't you doing that for everyone, especially the main people?
The mains, yeah.
I think, yeah, out of who's left, the only ones I would care about would be Dustin, Steve, 11, and probably Mike. Although Mike's a bit iffy.
I was going to say, I don't care that much about Mike. I agree with you.
like
I really
Dustin-
like Steve. I think they've missed good opportunities to kill him in a meaningful way. He's got super plot armor. I don't know if you've seen this, but the fucking Netflix Stranger Things account posts memes about how if you kill Steve, we'll riot. It's like they are so aware, like that people like Steve, they're just not going to kill him.
Yeah.
See, I don't think that's a good way to write
No, I
something.
don't think so either.
You shouldn't be waiting to write your thing and then maybe going on forums and seeing who are the most liked characters and writing a plot around that.
Well, remember,
like
the Robin, Nancy, and Steve all get tied up by the neck by Vecna, and he has no reason not to kill
for
them.
ages.
And they survive. I was never worried they'd be killed in that scene. I was like,
No.
nah, they'll be fine. They're gonna make it out because they can't die. They don't have the balls to kill him.
I really feel like Robin needs to go. Either
They'll
either
never
die
kill
or
her.
leave the show because she's not
She has
interested.
She has more plot armor than 11. It should be pretty obvious why they would never kill Robin. They would not want to incite a fucking riot.
But if
thing.
nothing else, you can just leave now because like her character arc's kind of completed. Like she's found love and everything, and that was like what she was looking for.
She doesn't. This is the problem for me with Robin is that I don't think she adds enough to the storyline for how much she's taking in terms of screen time. Now, to be fair, I feel that way about a couple of people actually. They're not worth the time that they take. Like like Dustin, I think he's great. I think he's pretty top notch, especially in seasons 1 and 4. I don't like him in 2, and I can't remember what he does in 3 right now. I think it's like, yes, the fucking Russian plotline is terrible as well. But season 1 and 4, he's like this focused, tech-based guy who has good chemistry with adult characters because he oftentimes understands the situation better than they do, and they're baffled by that. But it's because he has a big investment in it. Like the shit with him and Steve is always pretty funny and like relatively endearing. I enjoy it, but yeah, I don't have much to say about the rest of the kids.
No, and I think that, like, I've thought about Dustin, I think I like him because of the actor and the way he plays the character. I think if he was one of the others, he would probably improve that character as well, and I'd like them more.
Fair. Yeah.
So I think his character is probably as good as the others. They're just played differently. Because
he has a specific role as well within the story. Like Mauler said, he's the tech guy. He's the guy who kind of understands the science behind like the upside down and stuff. And he's usually got some theory about how to defeat whatever threat they're up against. So he serves a useful role from the writing point of view.
Yeah.
Other characters don't really, like Mike doesn't really have much of a role. Will doesn't seem to have much of a role now at this point. Like he has this vague sense of the upside down, but like that's all he's got.
Well, like Mike's role was supposed to be leader, and that's even like said, I think, by Will at one point. But it's like, dude, Dustin has taken that role from him in the Hawkins plotline. He's the leader of that group. Mm-hmm. The best you get is he suggests ideas, and the rest of them go, oh, "Okay, that is the best idea." Like he's not necessarily the leader, but he is. He's the one that has the best ideas about how to deal with the situation, sort of thing.
And wouldn't you expect the leader to be like the most confident person who's always got a plan for everything? And that's not Mike at all.
This is the thing about you. They try to construct a dynamic in season 1, but like because they keep fucking around with the formula. I don't know if you've seen this, but the Duffer Brothers have also said we're going to get back to the same group from season 1 in season 5. Get excited, everybody! That's going to be the main group, and it's just like, why are you even like? What is this weird idea you have about storytelling where you're just like trying to appeal to things you remember, and like as opposed to there's going to be a story and it's going to be a suitable story.
I do understand that, because for me, I think Series 4 is the second best season, but I think it's the second best season because of how close it is to Season 1.
I'm saying they said that about Season 5, not 4.
Oh. I have no idea. I'm not even sure why Season 5 is happening. Like, why are they trying to get over to this world? I still don't understand. Like, if he thought the other side was so amazing because it was untouched by man, why is he coming back to man?
I think he wants to kill all of man.
What? Why?
He doesn't like humans.
I think now,
he's
particularly,
barely met any of them.
Well, if you remember, when he was a kid or whatever, he decided humans ruin everything, and he'd like to kill them all.
Yeah, because he hints as well that he's going to rebuild the world into like his own image or something and make it better, which is just like fucking X-Men Apocalypse all over again.
Yeah, I mean, he's got his world. He's the leader of his own universe where he can apparently mold it into whatever he wants. And he's like, no, I'm going to go over here and do it over there as well. Like, okay.
Dude, I hope they point out his hypocrisy, but I have a feeling the Duffer Brothers haven't even noticed it. I really worry about stuff like that. Because I thought it was kind of interesting that he was like, humans arrived on Earth and they fucked it all up. He arrives on the Upside Down, which is doing its own thing, and he's making it become like this almost, he's turned it into a war thing. Going to use the Upside Down for his own benefit. It's like, so you've done to the Upside Down what you are critical of humans for doing to Earth. It's like, I hope that comes up, but I'm starting to worry that the Duffer Brothers haven't noticed that, or they just don't care. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's dangerously close to just being like, he's evil because he's insane.
Kind of.
You know what I mean? And he just wants kind of world domination because that's what evil, insane people want. And it doesn't really like progress further beyond that in terms of rationalization.
Yeah, I think for me, to improve the series as like the most in the sort of easiest way would be to have some kind of explanation for why all of this is going on, why everything's interconnected and happening this way. Like it's a bit like Hopper's story. Yeah, it happened, but I'd like it to tie into the main plot all the way so there's a reason for it. And it just seems like separate scenes put together.
It's like if season 1 is the equivalent of me being like, there's a spooky house over there. And season 2 is like, oh, look, this monster this big came out of that house. And then season 3, an even bigger one that's flashy came out. And you're just standing there being like, what is this house? And then I go, all right, season 4, I'm going to tell you. So this house was built really long ago, and someone went into it at one point. There you go. And you're like, you haven't told me shit. Like, I don't know what is that? I don't like.
Yeah. It's such a weird position to be in, to be like, I like what you're doing, but I have no idea why any of it's happening.
Oh, I've said to people before, I really enjoyed this season. I'm not sure I'd call it good. It's complicated, okay? It's hard to say.
It's funny because for anyone watching this in chat, they must be thinking like, we fucking hate it. Like we're saying that we like it, but then we're spending all this time picking holes in it. And I think it's a factor of us caring about it. Like we're actually invested in it now, so we want to investigate it a little bit more and pick it apart how it works. And two, yeah, like it's gotten back on track, but it's still got a ways to go to get back to being truly great, like season 1 was. And I think this is where we're at with it.
I think Mauler summed it up best at the start. It's like you look at Thor Love and Thunder and it's like ripping it apart because it's awful, whereas this is looking for ways to improve something that's good. Yeah, and so you enjoy it, but you just want to sort of elevate it.
This is the thing. If you want it, we could, because we haven't really talked about everything that happens with Max and maybe the scene with Eddie that I fucking adore. This is the thing. Like, I haven't really been talking about the things I loved in the season. I've mainly been talking about the things I liked and definitely didn't like, or need improvements and stuff. We could do. I guess what I'm just trying to reassure people, because loads of people are like, "Why do you hate it so much?" It's like, we don't actually.
No. Thing is, I'd do this with anything. Like I say, Spooks is one of my favorite TV series also, but if I really wanted to rewatch it and go through it again, and you wanted me to talk about it, I'd be doing the same stuff, like literally for anything.
Yeah. But I think it's the great thing about Stranger Things is that it deals with so many interesting concepts, and it weaves enough really great characters into that mix that it's a great combination of ideas and elements and like human interest stories all tied into it. The key elements that you need for a good storytelling are all there. It's just sometimes they could use tweaking in season 4. This is what we're kind of picking up on, I suppose. But yeah, like I know, Muller, you said there that there's bits that you do love about it.
Yes.
Is there a standout moment?
So obviously, this is the funny thing, right? I'd say that season 1 is the best, almost by far at this point. But my favorite, like my top 3 moments of Stranger Things, are all in season 4. Obviously, I was thinking of how long I want to spend on any of this, really, because I don't want to send everyone to sleep or anything. But like, we'll take Master of Puppets, right? Like the mechanics for why they're doing this, I think in universe make just enough sense for me to be considering it like it's pretty praiseworthy. Like We need to make enough noise that it distracts a bunch of enemies from an area so that our guys can go in and kill the leader while he's chasing Max in the dream world. To me, I was like, that can make a lot of sense. And there's like the fact that they opt to get weapons, I was almost thoroughly impressed with, because a lot of characters will just be like, let's grab a stick and hit him with it and hope for the best. Though I wish they'd grabbed a bit more in terms of potent weaponry. They go with enough, I think, for them to think that they have a good chance. Regardless, the way they have him play the song is because some people are like, why didn't they just play a song really loudly, like on speakers? It seems to me that he's actually just amplifying the sound of his guitar, because he's only playing like the lead guitar portion of Master of Puppets. It's the soundtrack that pushes in the rest of the song for our benefit. So I appreciate the fact that they started off with just him doing the guitar. I fucking love that song. I love metal, so I was already biased very much in favor of this. Eddie's a DM, right? Like a master of puppets, if you will. He even refers to Vecna as being that sort of thing, as an enemy in D&D as a game. You have, when Vecna's playing chess with Eleven, he explains what's so bad about Papa, and he refers to him as a puppet master. When, if you look at that scene in retrospect, Vecna's describing himself throughout the whole thing, exactly what he's doing. In fact, you have all of him covered in tentacles when he rises. It's like it's all strings. The fact that he picks from all the different people in Hawkins as to who to manipulate until he just rips them apart. Again, Vecna's a puppet master. Eddie's a puppet master. Eddie's going to use the song to manipulate a bunch of demons to come to him. I was like, you couldn't have picked a more perfect song. And the way they chop up the song is to maintain lyrics that are much more relevant to the season than they would be with other parts of the song. For example, I think it's twisting your nightmares and smashing your dreams is one of the lyrics in there. And obviously this song was done in 86, so it has no fucking relevance to Stranger Things, but Stranger Things can then import their own meaning onto it by designing a villain that is very Freddy Krueger-like, and so it's going to be relevant to what the song's going for. And then him sort of matching it, like commending the scene when he watches Chrissy die is kind of sad, because they get a good scene of them having chemistry beforehand. I really like the fact that he dedicates the song to her, and even says when they run off that they should make him pay. It just shows that Eddie still really cares about that moment, and it did a lot to him, when it should, as characters go. And then I appreciate the fact that they combined the action scene. They edited it really well. They saved all the important parts, and then you have the solo at the end where Eddie like tries to finish it even though he's running out of time. It's like, that's how fucking committed he is. And it's just got a level of badassery that I fucking love. That's probably like the 7 or 8 tracks of appreciation I have for that 3-minute scene. I think they fucking nailed it. I think there's a reason it's going viral all the time when people post it online. And I think that it's a great highlight of how much Eddie was a fucking great character. There's my essay.
I can't even... Honestly, there's nothing I could even add to that. It's like you pretty much summed it up perfectly.
I have the exact same set of thoughts about the Max scene at the end of season 4, episode 4. Sorry, it's another knock it out of the park, excellent scene for meaning and why they chose the song, acting, all of it. And this is why I have complicated feelings about season 4. I'm like, how the fuck did you guys make that, but then also make some of the bullshit in this season? Like, you know, the Lenora plotline is quite boring, but when they have that action scene suddenly, where the fucking soldiers assault the house and their bodyguard is trying to John Wick his way through the whole... I was just like, whoa! I was not ready for this shit, man.
Well,
that was genuinely good. I mean, you knew none of the kids were going to get harmed, but it was fun to watch. This is a piece of like set piece action.
And thinking back to Thor, where you've got sort of the difference between something serious is happening, but they're trying to make a joke out of it. In this, you've got the whole point. I can't remember which one it was, but someone's being, I think it's Max. She's getting killed, and they're running around desperately trying to save her, and they're looking at the music, like, don't you have any music to save her? It's like, this is music! That's how you put a joke in the middle of a serious scene, but it still feels serious all the way through. So stuff like that, I think can definitely be, if you want to do I think that's a perfect example of how you can mix ideas, because they're still being serious in that moment, even though it kind of relieves the tension.
I think as well, this sort of ties back to the point I made earlier about it would have made so much more sense, and it would have been more satisfying emotionally if Max had died at the end, because this idea that she was able to escape Vecna with the song and in episode 4, which was all great, good scene. But then that coming to that realization that actually she's not escaped him. Like, he's always going to come for her. It's inevitable. She's only delaying the inevitable. And so she chooses to go out by sacrificing herself to buy her friends time to kill him. Is a great way for that character to check out. I think that would have been a great way for her to just die. Keeping her alive in the kind of half-hearted way that they have it just feels cheap. It feels like
I think it's cheating. It's actually just cheating, and I hate seeing it. Go away. You want to kill her and not kill her. You don't get to pick one. Yeah. And I thought it was especially tragic that she volunteers to distract him, knowing exactly what that means, knowing that she might get torn to pieces, and she does it. The plan goes ahead, and it's everyone else that can't quite pull off their ends. Like Eleven can't, Nancy, Steve, and Robin can't. Eddie does what he can, so does Dustin. But the reality is the plan didn't work, and she's going to have to die now, even though she did probably the bravest thing out of a lot of them. And her last scene with both the actors, her and Lucas, I was thoroughly impressed, especially with the choice of dialogue they had. Yep. I feel like that scene is actively damaged when they're like, Max is still alive, everyone.
Yeah, because I've said to you, I've done it on stream, but I don't consider Lucas's actor to be particularly good up until that moment, and then it's like, oh wow, he can actually, he can bring it when he needs to. It's good stuff.
It was funny. I checked the subreddit soon after the season was out. It was like a couple days, I think, and there was this highly voted thread, and it had unpopular opinion ... and it was Max should have died. Everyone agrees. It's the most popular unpopular opinion ever. It's just like, we were all so ready to talk about and appreciate the payoff of her dying for that, but then the show is like, she isn't dead though, and you're like, what? Well, now I can't talk about that. I can't talk about what it means that she's dead because she isn't fucking dead.
I mean, that's why I like the ending probably the best out of the others. Because in the others, it was like, oh, look, we've succeeded, but they don't really know that actually they failed. Whereas in this, it's just open and obvious, and they know that everything they've done and any sacrifice they've made was essentially for nothing. And I kind of like that, all this riding off into the sunset stuff. I think you shouldn't do it for everything. And so it's a bit like Watchmen. My favorite thing about the Watchmen is the ending, where it's just like, oh, well, you think I would have told you our plan if I actually hadn't already sort of succeeded, kind of thing.
I get you, but I don't think it was very well executed in a lot of ways. I hate the fact that the world thinks it was just an earthquake. It's like, are you fucking with me? Did you see that thing? That is not just an earthquake, you idiots. There's a lot of things about it. I didn't like that Eddie doesn't get a funeral. We don't get to see many characters reacting to the fact that he did what he did when they absolutely should show it. That we just get Dustin and the uncle, which, by the way, excellent scene. But it frustrates me that we didn't get Steve, Robin, and Nancy's thoughts on the fact that Eddie died to give them more time.
Yeah.
And the fact that his body's been left in the Upside Down, that really fucks with me.
That's a bit of a shitty end for him. It's the fact that, because you cut away and Dustin was obviously with him in the Upside Down, so it's not like he had to evacuate suddenly. He presumably just made his way back to the portal and climbed out. There should have been a way to get him out if need be.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that's a bit shit. The whole time jump forward by 2 days felt weird. I don't know why they did that.
What a fucking mistake. And they did it because they were like, gotta get Mike back, gotta get Hopper back so everyone can see each other and go, woo, as opposed to, well, we got Aftermath to deal with. We got characters to talk about what happened to Max, what happened to Eddie, what their plans are going forward, what they think happened to Vecna. But we don't get any of that.
I would have liked to have seen more 11 crying. We clearly didn't get enough of that season. I kind of took the piss out of season 3 because it's just I know that Millie Bobby Brown can cry really well on command, but fucking hell, you don't have to show us every single scene that she's in. And wow, they got up to 11 on this one. Literally.
Said, I'm glad Eddie has died because it removes the chance for destroying his character in season 5. It's removes the Duffers will bring him back. I'm almost certain of it because of the love he's gotten. it's everywhere. People want him back more so than ever before. I'm almost sad to see it. I was like, oh god, they'll fold. They'll bring him back. He's gonna be like a demon or something.
Yeah, there we go. 11 versus Will in a cry-off.
Ooh.
He does do a lot of crying in this one. Sometimes it works really well. Other times it comes across as a little bit melodramatic and over the top.
I don't like it in a lot of shows though, where it's just like a character crying. It's like you've got something to do. There is no time for this, and I think you at least need someone to go. You should actually just carry on, put this to one side, and do what needs to be done. I don't like it where a character like wallows in it for a long time. Yeah, I don't know.
And like what he's upset about, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure like in a normal circumstance it's a very difficult position to be in, what he's going through, but when you're facing the end of the world, it's like, you know what, your personal issues can fucking wait for now. Like, this is more important.
I didn't want to be the one to say it, but yeah, listen,
there's something bigger than you.
Him struggling about his unrequited love, I'm like, bro, the world's ending. I don't know. Just put it to one side, please.
But yeah, listen, I'm kind of conscious that we've been streaming for quite some time now, and since we're all British, it's quite late here, and we're probably a bit tired. And
true,
the chat are probably, they might have heard enough of us this evening. It's like, this is the longest open bar ever. I think we're almost on 4 hours, and so it may make sense to probably end it there. We didn't get to cover the Lord of the Rings, but we know it's going to be shit, so we can leave that.
We know it's going to be shit.
And it's not as if you won't have stuff to talk about that soon. What is it? SDCC is going to have a new trailer, like a proper one, I think. So
okay, yeah, we'll do that properly then when the time comes. But you guys, I want to say thanks for coming on tonight, and Disparu especially. You've been a great guest as always, man. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure to be on.
Not that you haven't been awesome as well, Moller, but you're my co-host, so I don't have to pay for it.
Well, it's all right. You didn't remember Az again. He's been great too. He was great. Don't worry, Az. I got you, buddy.
He's not here right now, so I don't have to thank him.
I was going to send him this clip, and I can't wait to see him react to it.
Yeah.
And you'd have to do it, because he's not going to watch this back because he doesn't want the spoilers. So
yep, someone will clip this and put it on Twitter, and he'll be sad.
And thank you to everyone in chat. You guys have also been awesome. And I know I haven't got through any of the super chats tonight, and there's a shit ton of them. My apologies. We just, I guess, particularly with Thor, we had so much to cover. There just wasn't time to get through that as well. But I will, as always, cover all of the super chats in a catch-up stream. So if you've asked me a question or whatever tonight, it will be addressed. Believe that. Yeah. But yeah, thank you to my mods as well. You guys, you've put in the work tonight because you've had a lot of people to mod. We've had like 13,500 people watching, which has been great. And yeah, we've gone on for a long time. So thank you to all of you. And I guess for now, that's all we've got for today. So go away now.
Bye-bye.
See ya.